Can't have fucking everything.
You certainly cannot.
Jordan, what's going on?
Not much. Are we recording?
We are now.
Oh, okay.
That's what that clap means.
Oh, of course. You were trying to do it all professional and just be like, I clapped and that means we're recording. And I gotta blow the kayfabe by, just asking dumb rookie questions.
I work in TV. What does the clap mean?
Well, we still say action after the clap in television,
If it wasn't unscripted, I would. But
there you go.
Because it's unscripted, I don't want to call action because this is real.
Right. We're flowing. And I guess, that's the important thing is that this is just all off the dome, as a freestyle rapper would say.
It's, believe it or not, one thing I learned listening to Chris Hardwick on The Nerdist before he got canceled was not doing intros and stuff like that with the guest here because people tend to put up barriers and like, oh, I got to be on now. I have to be proper on all that fun stuff. It's like, no, just continue the conversation. Hit record.
So you're saying that you take lessons from I don't even know what he did to get canceled, but like
I don't even remember.
Wow.
I'm sure it wasn't good.
I'm sure it wasn't. The idea that a lot of people get canceled for stuff that was like totally cool. There's not really that many of those people.
No. I mean, Louis technically asked for consent.
Did he? Did he?
I'm not defending Louis.
No, I know.
There's a horrible power dynamic of, this is my employee.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's, God, we're jumping right into it. This is a lot of the stuff that I'm writing about right now is this dynamic. But like the thing that interests me right now are the middlemen. They're the monsters and they are, always a part of the story. And the victims, I always feel like I'm going to let somebody else write the victim stories. But like the book that I have coming out in January, it's called Everybody Knows on Mulholland. I did not mean to pivot to a pitch this early in, but
here we are.
But no, I think there's so many things to talk about it. It's sort of, last time I was here was 2018. And it was right before I was going to shoot my pilot for LA Confidential, the TV show. And that TV show did not happen.
I know. I was bummed when I saw that.
I'll send it to you, by the way. We did shoot it, and I will send it to you. I won't send it to anybody listening to this, but I'll let you watch it.
Fuck you, listeners.
Hey, I wish everybody in the world could see it, but that's really not my call. But I had all this like James Ellroy energy left in me that I wanted to tell like a big LA crime story. But I was like, nah, but like I don't want to set it in the 50s. That's Ellroy's territory. So I'm going to set it right now. And so like the main character is a woman named May, and she's what I call a black bag PR person, which is she doesn't get the good news out. She keeps the bad news in. And those are the kind of people that I'm really fascinated with are the private security firms that are just like the bodyguards, and especially those ones that are like they're all ex-special forces or ex-cops or still cops, which is a very big thing with these people.
It was also very illegal.
Yeah, well, they do it all the time.
Oh, I know. I mean, I worked in that world.
Oh, right. But like, because like the power somebody has when their bodyguard is a off-duty LAPD officer is incredible. You can do anything. I have a friend who is within the sphere of an A-list actor who travels everywhere he goes. He has off-duty cops with him. And that guy, he lives like there are no laws. And,
there effectively aren't.
There aren't. When you have the cops on your payroll walking around with you who can walk up to any other cop and go, no, this is cool because we're all in the same gang. I'm fascinated with those people. I'm fascinated with the lawyers, the non-disclosure agreements, and all of those things that kind of, circle around that world. And so that's, Everybody Knows is like my story about it's a very Ellroy-esque story in that it's about the middlemen. It's about the people who have to get people to sign the non-disclosure forms. It's about all of that world, which I think is the underexamined part of all of this.
I shouldn't make an introduction. A buddy of mine is a professional sex tape broker.
Oh, I need to. Yes, I need an introduction.
All right.
Yeah. I'm very into I've had my experience in Hollywood for 14 years, and I have a lot of friends who've, I've heard a lot of different stories from a lot of different people. I did sit down with the publicist for a very bad man whose name we all know, and got to talk to them about what they did and how they felt about it, which they felt no shame. They felt no shame. And
just another day at the office, huh?
Another day at the office, and their position was, well, everybody deserves a voice. Everybody deserves to get their message out. But you're a megaphone. You're not this this guy isn't everybody. He's a very rich, powerful man, and you're just aiding and abetting his power. This isn't like some kind of like civil rights free speech issue. This is you are aiding and abetting like a man because the person did acknowledge to me in the interview that, yes, this person is a monster who has done these horrible things. But like hey, everybody needs a job, which
everybody's got to eat.
Everybody's got to eat. And I don't know why I find that more distasteful than I find like defense attorneys, which I think actually, yes, everybody does deserve a defense in court, because in court, you're going up against the biggest monster of all, which is the state. And in the book I'm writing right now, and another one of my main characters is a defense attorney, and the way he puts it in the book, which I think is great because I wrote it, is I'm the knife they bring to a gunfight, because you're coming up against the United States of America, and all you have in your corner is that guy in the cheap suit. And so that's,
hopefully not in the cheap suit.
Hopefully in the nice suit. You're right. And I think the character I have written would be a nice suit. And I spend a lot of time, Instagram is a great place to check out defense attorneys, because they will shoot videos with their clients. I'm sure they knock stuff off the bill. But, the thing that's amazing is like LA, the kind of defense attorneys I'm looking at are guys who are like, my client, and the client is just standing there. Clients don't wear suits in court anymore. Nobody owns suits anymore. So they're just wearing a very nice polo and their pants look clean. And that's all they did for court. And the lawyer will be like, we were charged with kidnapping and assault with a deadly weapon, and I got it knocked down to just kidnapping. So we got one of the strikes taken away, and it's now, instead of 30 years, it looks like it's going to be about 20, probably 10 with good behavior. And you're like, that's what actual defense attorneys do. They don't prove that you're innocent, or, they don't crack the case. They work it so that you maybe don't have your entire life destroyed by a thing that if you were a rich person, you would have just gotten away with in the first place.
I don't know how accurate the statistic is, but I heard somewhere, read maybe, 94% of criminal cases in the U.S. don't go to trial.
Yeah. And if every case went to trial, the justice system would grind to a halt instantly. The system is built to make sure that most people plead guilty before they go to trial. And then when you go to the courthouse and you look at who's actually there, and you see they're all people of color, and you go, I don't know if this system's awesome, because I don't believe that they look, I've committed felonies.
Don't admit to them on here. This is the internet.
No, I'm just saying. I've committed felonies in my life, not recently, but in my drug days, I've certainly had more LSD or mushrooms in my possession than probably would have just gotten me a parking ticket. I'm just saying, most people have at one point in their life committed a felony of some kind.
Without a doubt.
And so that's where you can just be so I don't know why I'm going to get all high and mighty about the people who happen to get caught, who happen to be the people that the police go after, even if they're guilty. I don't know. I mean, not to just start off on this tangent, but
But here we are.
But here we are is this is a lot of the stuff that I spend a lot of time with now. I'm fascinated, and this is another part of Everybody Knows. We can talk about other things besides my book, but is the LA Sheriff's Department gangs. I mean, are you hip to this?
Oh, I am.
It's fascinating. I mean, you tell people so there are gangs in the Sheriff's Department. They go, and you go no. Gangs. And they're like, yeah. It's no, they have tattoos, and they have to do blood in, blood out, and they commit crimes. And they go, and you're like, I'm saying this, and somehow it's not getting through to people that well,
because it sounds like it should be a work of fiction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, this first book in this series that I'm doing, I only have one real chapter about sheriff's gangs, but I try and lay it out as clearly as possible of they're gangs, and high up people in the sheriff's department are members of these gangs, and they run entire divisions. There are precincts that belong to the banditos.
This is all allegedly. I live in LA still.
No, I know. Hey, look, I'm publishing a book with all this stuff in it, and there's part of me that goes they just did a raid yesterday or the day before on a woman who's investigating the sheriff's department.
Yeah, the civilian oversight.
Yeah, and they just did a raid, and you go, well, I hope they have a good attitude towards fiction writers.
I wouldn't put money on it.
I wouldn't either, but you just gotta. I will say that I did write this book. You always go in with fear, especially now. Everybody's scared to say things in fiction or out loud on the internet or whatever. Everybody's scared. I did a pretty good job of saying things that I was a little scared to say. And I'm not asking for a medal for that. It was a book. Like I wasn't out on the front lines, like, leading the revolution. I'm just saying I am glad that I was able to like write that chapter and go, well, geez, I hope that maybe they won't read it. But like, it's that double-edged sword of the more successful you are, the more likely it is that you're going to catch their attention. And
it's one of those things where like, this is the internet. This is here forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
100%. 10 years down the road, someone could Google like Jordan Harper, LASD gangs, and like a clip from this may show up.
Yeah. Well, don't put that in like the tags, but like, or put it in the tags. I don't, no, I don't, again, like I wrote the book, like, I having been in Hollywood and worked in Hollywood for 14 years, I've collected a lot of stories. And so I have fictionalized a lot of stories. And there's a lot of them that like have made the news. People are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I use fake names. It's fictional. Everybody's an amalgam. Don't sue me. And there's going to be some that like people in the know will know what I'm talking about, because there are people who've never been busted and people who've never gotten news stories written about it. But again, that's why that's the title of the book, is Everybody Knows, like that Leonard Cohen song, because there's been multiple people who have gone down where the attitude in Hollywood has been like, yeah, about time.
Hell, one of the most infamous ones. Started a whole fucking movement.
Yeah.
The worst kept secret in Hollywood.
Worst kept secret in Hollywood. I mean, you had stuff like, there's a great clip of Courtney Love one time where she was on a red carpet and somebody said, what advice would you give to a young actress in Hollywood? And she said, don't go to a private meeting with Harvey Weinstein.
Which is wild that one of the other most allegedly horrible people in Hollywood is giving good advice.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure she's got problems of her own, but oftentimes it's people like that who have the guts to say something like that, and the devil be damned, But like, there's another person in this book that, again, when people read it, hopefully they will, they're gonna know exactly who I'm talking about, because he's coming up in the news now. He never had before, and I'm like, uh oh. But hey, you got to go for it, right? Like, what am I gonna do? Write a pussy book that is like scared, I guess. Again, no. I'm not trying to act like this is the bravest thing a person can do. Like, it's just, but that just makes it more important to be brave about it, is because it's a book. I don't also, like, when people talk about this stuff, like sometimes people want like credit, like pats on the back because you're like exposing something. It's like, I'm writing a novel. That's all it is. It's a novel. Nobody should get credit. There's two kinds of people I don't agree with. There are people who want to make art immoral, like, oh, that book's bad, that movie's bad. But also, I don't agree with anybody who really wants to make it moral. Like, it's just art. It just is. And I think that's good in and of itself, because people like stories, people like art. That's the good of it. But like to say, well, I wrote this thing, it's an important story. It's like, no, it's not. Like, it's a story.
It is. Do you feel any regrets on monetizing some very real people's fucking trauma, though?
I mean, look, first of all, that is why I fictionalized it. And it's also why I had people read it before I sent it into any editors and be like, what do you think? And my only response can be like, man, this is the world we live in. And it is also why, by the way, I said why I'm interested in the middlemen, and like, I'm not going to write a book from a victim's perspective. And I have told like the marketing people that I'm involved with, like, please don't call this a Me Too book, because I think Me Too books are the domain of people who can talk about that. Now, Me Too comes up in it because it's a book about Hollywood today. So the words Me Too appear in it, but I'm not a person writing a Me Too novel about it, And look, if somebody came to me and said like, wow, you wrote about this guy and he really traumatized me and I didn't like reading about it again, I don't know what I would say to that person, other than like, you can't write a book from that perspective of like, I could scare somebody, or I could, like, you just have to write the book.
And they also weren't forced to pick it up.
They weren't forced to pick it up. And look, I think it's good to have, like, people get really angry about trigger warnings and stuff like that. I don't have any problem with trigger warnings, because people should know if if somebody wants to warn somebody else what's in their story, that's fine. But like, there's on a totally non-political level, people always say you have to write like your parents are dead. Like, you can't be thinking, what is my mom going to think about this book? What is my dad? And you're a human being. You, of course, think about it, but you try and write, like, well, not you.
Like, I very much preach to, like, I'm living life for me, man. Like, yeah. I don't really give a fuck about what the people who fucked me into this world think about. Like, the job's done. You can't abort me now.
I like that. That's a good attitude. Yeah, and that's the attitude. That's what to strive for sure when you're doing this.
I mean, because that trying to live up to anyone else's expectations, your parents, your society, whoever, just holds you back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100% holds you back. Because especially if you're trying to live for your parents' approval, what happens the day that they're no longer here and you've been living your whole life trying to gain their approval? Where are you now? Where the fuck are you? Oh shit! The people I wanted approval from my whole fucking life are dead. What's the meaning of my life? No, seek out life for the meaning of your own fucking life. Live for you.
I think that works both ways in that, like, I think that people who write books that are trying very hard not to offend anybody are gonna not be great books. But the other kind of book that isn't great is somebody who's really trying to offend you. And it's like, am I shocking you yet? Aren't you shocked with all my shocking opinions? And it's like, that's also boring. And
I agree. It's one of those things where, like, if shock is the outcome of the art, that's fine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But if you're just, I'm being edgy to be edgy, like, fuck that.
Right. And it just gets old and it always goes to the same place. It's just funny how all of it, at the end of the day, the really offensive stuff that people think they're so naughty for saying is just all shit that just supports the bosses anyway. It always ends up being sexism, racism, transphobia, like really boring, shitty opinions that, like, they try and dress up. I'm so tired of, like, the alt-right movement that presents itself as, like, edgy or interesting, where it's just like, you're fucking hanging out with the bosses and you want to act like you're too cool because you're vaguely embarrassed by how corny the people that the boots you're licking are, but, like, you're licking their boots. Like, don't act like you're not. It's like all that shit, it just always goes to the same place. It always goes to the same place. And it's not an interesting, cool, or edgy place. It's just not.
No. Though hearing Milo talk on podcasts about, like, oh, we tried to get Trump elected just because for the lulz is like, are you kidding me? You literally are like, oh, hey, we're going to light the match while Nero fiddles just because it's funny. Like, the fuck?
Well, and again, it comes down to, as the dead Kennedy said, like, trash a bank if you've got real balls. Like, from Nazi punks fuck off. It's like, oh, you think you're so edgy? Go fucking do something. Like, come on. It's just, and again, it's like, you have the same politics as a guy who owns a Mazda dealership. Like, there's nothing radical about this. It's really, like, it's sad. And, the way that's kind of on the upswing right now, it's just like, oh, here we go again. It happened in the 90s with, like, Boyd Rice and Jim Goad and people like that. And it's just back again,
Well, it's wild on the other end of the spectrum too. It's just like, when people are crazily leftist, like, I lean that way, but it's also like, whoa, some of this stuff just sounds like you're spouting other people's propaganda too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for sure. And I'm pretty far left, but, like, I'm also realistic about who I am as a human being. There's a great anarchist folk singer named Pat the Bunny, who, like, lived as a homeless guy playing guitar and going around playing for gutter punks for years. And actually wrote a lot of really great songs. But one of his very early songs was Never Trust a Man Who Plays Guitar, which comes back to kind of what I was saying about the books or any of this is like, this guy isn't building bombs. He's not out there shooting somebody. He's playing songs. And I, like, believe, like, I would love for us to have more equality in this world. And I would love for us to, like, try and just fucking care about each other more. Like, I know that if that makes me sound like a hippie, that's it. But that's just, I really think, like,
well, but that's also self-serving. Like, because if you care about everyone else more and everyone else cares about that helps you out too. It's not like, oh, this is completely altruistic. Eat from my body, I am Christ or some shit. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, hey, if society's better, I'm part of society. Society benefits me then too. Woohoo!
It's wild because we've totally killed the idea in America that the common good exists. That, like, like, fucking, like, if we tried to invent libraries now, people would be like, wait, you're going to let people have books for free? Well, I don't even read books. Why would I pay for books? And you're like, because maybe...
Or where else are the homeless going to masturbate?
Well, that's the truth, is because that's the last public space we have. It's the only place we have. Have you ever been to the main library downtown LA?
I have not.
It's a gorgeous building. It's an amazing library. And then I was looking for, I can't remember what book I was looking for, but I went to the information desk and the woman said, well, that book's on sub-level 3. Get ready. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, they're washed in the blood of the lamb down there. I swear to God, she said that. And so I got on the elevator and I went to sub-level 3. So you're now 3 stories below the library. And the doors open. This seems like, I put this in my book because it feels made up. The doors split and this guy with just, like, giant dreadlocks and that smell hits you that you can just taste. And he just looks at me and he goes, I'm the one who's burning. And you go, whoa. And then you just get down there and you go, oh yeah, this is like, it's where all the politics, religion, and occult books are in the main library. So it's like, the choicest characters on sub-level 3. But it's like, it's literally the last indoor place with air conditioning that people can go and not be turned away. So like, yeah, that's where they go. But like, maybe if we gave them nice places to go, the library would also be more functional. And then, like you're saying, we all win. And like the net cost out of your pocket is 17 cents. It's nothing. It's a joke.
Well, I know. When socialized healthcare came up again, I was making arguments with people like, oh, I don't want to pay for other people's fucking healthcare. I'm like, dummy, your lot in life is not guaranteed. Just because you have good healthcare from your employer right now doesn't mean you will tomorrow, or that your children will get a good job that has good healthcare for them. Don't you want to maybe kick a little ducats down the road that, it's like paying for insurance. Oh, look, hey, if I invest in society will fucking take care of me when I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just really, the Republicans in this country have done a really good job of making government suck and then getting elected because they say government sucks, we should have less of it. And
except we don't ever on either side.
No, but they just keep taking things away, and like we never have infrastructure bills, and our roads are falling apart, and they just kind of make things suck a little more, and you just like in a normal place, like I don't take the bus. I should take the bus.
But why?
Because it's you just shoot up the street and you get on the bus. And it should be very easy to take the bus, and we shouldn't have some kind of stigma of like, if I just want to shoot down to Glendale, I can hop on. I live off Colorado Street in Eagle Rock. I can just hop on the bus and shoot down to Glendale, go to the Lamley, which is a great little movie theater, and then take the bus back. I never do, and every time I don't, I always just kind of think, well, I should just once, just to. Because we've created, now it's a system where only poor people take the bus, and now there's a stigma against it, and now the traffic in LA sucks. And if every once in a while more of us would take the bus, LA would be a better place. And again, I'm not like some fucking, like, I don't want to act like I don't do it.
Oh yeah.
But
it's one of those things where like, unfortunately, 100 fucking years ago, they took the fucking rent cars out of fucking service. LA is very much steeped in the, this is for the poor, this is inconvenient.
Yeah.
And I don't know if taking the bus occasionally would actually change that.
Well, no, and that's, 9 times out of 10, if somebody, including what I just said, if somebody's trying to make you feel guilty for your individual actions, there's almost always some fucking corporation that you can find that you should actually be mad at. Like when they tried to make us all feel bad about using drinking straws, and it's like, oh, is that what's choking the ocean? My straw? You sure it's not that giant petrochemical company that's like dumping shit in the water? It's me and my straws, and you're right. And like, a lot of the criticism when you get down to like left-wing politics in America is like left-wing politics require collective action from everybody. And so they'll be like, oh, well, if you want people to have more money, why don't you just give them your money? And you're like, well, that's like saying, hey guys, we should build a dam on this river that will help us all. And somebody goes, well, if you want a dam so much, why don't you just throw your bricks in the river? Like we all actually have to work together to build the dam. If we want better public transit, you're correct that we all actually have to go out and build a better public transit system. Me being a little soldier of good isn't going to do it. It's not, you're totally right. And again, that's a very like a knee-jerk liberal guilt thing that I have, that it's hard to shake,
And that's part of the problem with being on the left side of things is the left will cannibalize itself very much so.
Oh, yeah.
And that is where the right fucking, like, so much of the right was never Trump until Trump was the kid. And they're like, oh, never mind. Lockstep, here we go.
Turns out, I think he's a heck of a fella.
Right.
And just never mind what I said before.
Never mind that the grabbing him by the pussy is fucking reprehensible. Oh, I'm going to go grab someone by the pussy too. Please don't just turn that into a soundbite. Shit.
It's the internet. It lasts forever.
It does. I was literally having a conversation with a friend about starting an OnlyFans today where it's just like, you sure you want to do this? Like, I am obviously not against people working in sex work or adult entertainment, but I also very much try to remind people like, hey, being a sex worker is not a protected class, and you really need to give real thought to things you put on the internet being there forever.
Yeah, because again, it's, I think you could wish for a better world where sex workers weren't discriminated against in a bunch of ways, but we don't live in that world. We live in the world where people discriminate against them all the times in all sorts of different ways. I mean, I know you know this way better than I do, but like, yeah, you have to be like, oh, forget your idealistic idea of what this is. Of like, yes, you are free to be a sex worker. Yes, sex work is work, absolutely. But we also live in a world where, yeah, man, and it never goes. I mean, it didn't even go way back in the day. Those first pictures of Marilyn Monroe in the first episode of Playboy ever. She didn't sell those to Hugh Hefner. She took those when she was a young, struggling actress. And then when she got famous, somebody sold those pictures. So even back then, things lasted forever. And now they really, 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 really last forever.
The one potential boon on the modern era is there's so much of it that people may never discover it because of the pure fucking volume of it.
That is true. There's a fire hose of it now. And it's never ending. And it's just, what is it? Tetrabytes of it every day getting out of, like, I'm sure, like, more videos probably get uploaded to Pornhub every day than a human being could watch in a year. I'm making
possibly a lifetime.
Yeah,
well, who knows?
And it's this is a real question because I know you have so many people in this industry and you know so much about it. Where is the money in porn coming from now? Like, how many people? What percentage of it? It just feels like other than OnlyFans, which I understand how that gets monetized, but like professionally shot porn with like casts and things like that. How is that monetized now?
So a lot of it is owned by a couple of companies. It's very top heavy these days. But especially porn. Like, porn went from being a bunch of, Vivid used to have a fucking office you could see from the 101.
Oh yeah, by that In and Out over in right off. Yeah.
Like, that's how big Vivid was at one point. Now it's fucking basically two tech companies that own the majority of professionally shot porn.
Okay.
And one of them owns the tube sites.
Right.
So, hell, they make an ad revenue off of everything you watch on Pornhub.
Okay. Ad revenue. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. MindGeek has moved to more of a YouTube model where they finally, instead of just stealing people's content, like, give you a kickback based on ad revenue, based on how many views you're getting as an individual model. But they own all the tube sites. They also own browsers. They also own a whole umbrella of production companies. Well, guess what teaser content gets prominently featured?
Vertical integration.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
And that's how a lot of money's been made. And I'm not mad at it. MindGeek occasionally employs me, so.
Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful model, and you approve of it.
Oh, I honestly, they obviously don't watch my show because I've talked a lot of shit over the years. Before they were employing me, it was like, I also have been in porn long enough where, like, back in the day when they were the devil, they were absolutely the fucking devil, absolutely were stealing people's content, demonetizing, like, making it effectively worthless and then buying it for pennies on the dollar. That was the old model.
Right. And now they have turned it around. They've become more artist friendly. And
well, they're the monopoly now. So
they're the only game in town.
They're the major game in town.
It's what you're saying. It just seems like it's the thing with everything is there's just no middle anymore. There used to just be a middle where you could kind of comfortably live as a small porn site or as a small studio or a writer who writes like 10 books that are never quite bestsellers, but you can own a house,
Well, OnlyFans has kind of brought that around.
Oh, I guess that's true.
But OnlyFans has its own top tier. Like, there are a lot of people making a lot of money from OnlyFans, but there are also people that are fucking struggling every month.
Right.
But some of that is lack of marketing. Some of that is they're not keeping up with their fucking content. OnlyFans is a lot like podcasting and YouTube, where it's just like, actually, OnlyFans is more like podcasting than it is YouTube, because you can put a YouTube video out there and the algorithm may pick it up and it may show it to a bunch of fucking people. OnlyFans has discoverability problems just like fucking podcasting.
That makes a lot of sense. And probably also a sense of like, you can't rest on your laurels.
Fuck no, you can't.
With a YouTube video, if you hit the big YouTube video, then people keep watching it and it will keep going. But yeah, OnlyFans, you got to update it. I don't know how often, but I'm sure there's
pretty fucking often.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing about it is, like, more you feed it, more people want regular content. More they want your attention. They want more.
Right. Well, it's all of this stuff. It's like, I don't know, one thing I've noticed about podcasts, and I don't know if you agree with me about this, is I have noticed like podcasts just fill a hole in your life that you should probably be aware of in some way. By which I mean, so I have a lot of friends who are film critics. I appear on a lot of podcasts. Most of the podcasts I am are film podcasts. And I don't listen to a lot of film podcasts. I listen to some of my friends, but the truth is I don't need to listen to film podcasts because I talk about film all the time with my friends. Now, I do listen to a lot of those left-wing political podcasts because I don't have a lot of friends in my life who want to talk about those specific things. So I always think like there's almost an interesting exercise to be done if you really listen to a podcast a lot, to ask yourself the question of like, what's missing in my life that I should maybe look at filling. And there's nothing wrong with podcasts. We're on one right now. I'm not trying to like,
hey, I'm here to shit on your art.
No, I listen to them all the time. I just like, you know what I mean? Like looking at like, what are you really keyed in on? Like what's, and not that you need to give up the podcast, but like where can you like, I think it just tells you something about yourself. And it's, when I realized I never listened to movie podcasts that weren't usually with my friends in it, I realized, oh, that's because I can talk about film. I assume you probably have, what do you have? Most of your listeners like are either industry people or people who are very interested in the industry, right?
Or just perverts.
Well, that's what I meant by people interested in the industry. I thought that was more business friendly term than perverts.
Oh yeah, we're on the most business friendly pod. I mean, I'm in the YouTube partner program now. I guess I have to watch myself a little bit.
Hey man, start monetizing those clicks with people interested in the industry.
Yes, people that are interested in the industry and the inner workings of pornography or adult entertainment. I don't think I can actually say pornography on YouTube.
Ooh.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a word. It's in the dictionary. They don't care about that, huh?
Yeah, they don't care about words in the dictionary. I definitely don't like that word. I can't use that one too often.
This is totally a change of subject, but we were talking before the show, and this is the story that I've told so many people. I had to be like, no, do not tell him before this. So, well, I'm not going to spoil the punchline. I'll just start telling the story. So I was taking a walk in Eagle Rock the other day, and this is just a small part of it. I got chased by a dog, and I had to I didn't run. Instead, I did a thing where you lock down and you refuse to acknowledge the dog is running at you and barking. Because I didn't want to act like I was a threat and I didn't want to act like I was prey. So I just walked up the hill and the guy's chasing his dog going, don't worry, he's cool. That thing every dog owner says right before the dog bites you, he didn't bite me, but I get to the top of the hill. I'm just saying that because that sets the mood, right? And I turn this corner and there's this woman standing in the middle of the street and she's on her cell phone and she's sobbing. And she looks at me, and this is such a weird little detail. She had these ridges of bumpy, weird warts on both of her eyelids, just covering them to just add to the David Lynch air of what was going on. And she looks at me and she says, you have to help me. I think my neighbor is dead. And she told me that her neighbor is an old man, and every week she brings the dumpster down for him to the curb. And this week there was no trash in his dumpster. And she thinks she can see him lying there in the hallway. And he's got one of those security doors with the metal with the holes punched in it. So you just kind of see, and I can see there are feet sticking up in the hallway. And she says, somebody's got to go in there. And I'm on the phone with 911 and they say somebody has to go in there and give him CPR. And this woman's hysterical. So again, I was already kind of locked down, and now I just locked down even more. I'm like, okay, I'm going in. I don't know how to give CPR, but maybe there's an old man and maybe I can help him somehow. So I'm going in and I open the door. And I look at him for 0.25 seconds. I only ever see his legs because he's wearing shorts. That's all I needed to see. I look at him for 0.25 seconds and I turn around and I say to the woman, he is very dead. And she tells 911 that. And because I don't need to describe it, but we're talking about days. And what was interesting about it is I didn't get sick and I didn't really get scared. I had that very locked down thing. But my brain, and it wasn't my conscious brain, it was the very center of my being. My animal self just said, that's a dead body, get away from it. And you don't have to run, but just go. And that's why people were like, did you look at him? Did you smell him? I'm like, no. I saw him. My brain said, dead body, go. And I just turned around.
So I figured out how you afforded a house in fucking Eagle Rock, huh?
Oh yeah, and then I bought that guy's house. No, but... no, that was yeah.
Deeply discounted.
I was walking in my new neighborhood going, oh, I've never been on this street in Eagle Rock. I have not been back to that street in Eagle Rock since either.
Did you write down the address? I could buy a house in Eagle Rock.
That's true. I should. I'll let you know. But
just let me know when the estate sale is. You might have had some good shit.
It was just wild because it's just you live your life, and we all have to live our lives not thinking, about that thing that it's just like, oh yeah, like, I walked back down there, like I was on the phone when all this happened. I said to my buddy, like, I'll call you back. And I called him back and he's like, no, the last thing I heard was a woman say, I think my neighbor's dead. And I'm like, yep. And of course, me and being what I do, I then went home and I took notes, because it's what I do. And I had literally just written a scene where a woman walks into a fucking dead body. So I was like, oh, I can now go and add that little bit about her brain telling her to turn around,
So was this the first dead body you've seen in real life?
It was, no, I was in the room when my grandfather died in the hospital. And I've seen people at funerals, but this was the first, like.
Well, I mean, like in the wild.
In the wild. Yes, it was. And I went home. I told Megan, my partner, about it, and I felt fine, went to bed, blah, blah, blah. And like 3 days later, I had a day where I missed 2 appointments, just like with no explanation, just like, oh shit, I had a physical this morning. And then like, oh my God, I had an appointment that I didn't go to at all. And then I went like, oh, I'm fucked up. Like it took me like 4 days for like my dumb toxic masculinity brain to allow me to admit that, oh yeah, seeing this like rotting corpse had in fact like bothered me. I don't know. Like, what about you? What have you like?
I mean, the closest I've got to was in 2006, a friend of mine on the job got shot in the face and neck. And I got to show up to the crime scene an hour after the fact. And the pool of blood he left was still wet when we got there an hour and a half later.
Wow. That's a lot of blood.
Yeah. Oh, it was so fucked. They airlifted him out of there and he survived. Amazingly, he's fucking survived. His fucking credit cards started getting, this is back in Chicago, his credit cards started getting used in Northwest Indiana. And we're all like, the dude who shot him, when did he take your wallet? Turns out one of the nurses was so convinced that he was going to die, they stole his fucking wallet and started using his credit cards.
Well, I like how that makes it okay. Like, well, they weren't going to make him pay. He would be dead.
Right.
But wow, that is close to death when the nurse is like, nah, go ahead, take it.
Yeah, they just stole his fucking shit. That's how, like, it was absolutely crazy because this is all caught on fucking footage. This is when I was working for the armored car company.
Oh, okay.
My guy goes into a Macy's, runs in. He is running hours behind. He is covering someone else's fucking route. The assailant goes into like the vestibule and pretends to talk on the customer service phone. I don't know if I've told this story on air before. I'm sure I have, but he comes out. The guy, he opens up the inner door of the vestibule, takes one step in. The guy forearms him to the wall, shoots him twice, grabs the bag, runs out the door. About 13 seconds later, he comes running back in, grabs the garment bag he was hiding the gun under, runs back out.
Wow.
My guy, about 20 seconds after that, picks himself up, sticks his thumb in his neck, kind of bounces off the far wall. He's drunk, takes 4 steps outside, calls in his own robbery, and then face plants from blood loss.
Whoa.
It's all on fucking film.
That is wild.
And then I had the misfortune or fortune of finishing up my route for the day as this went down. So me and a supervisor jumped in a fucking car and went down there. And this is not just some coworker. This is a dude I used to drink with. So I know exactly who it was. And we get there and the pool of blood is still wet. August, Chicago.
Right.
An hour and a half later, that's how much blood that he fucking lost. His flip phone is open, covered in fucking blood. We used to use these hand scanners, kind of like UPS, to track packages, covered in blood. Some fucking clothing that was torn off a rack, like the Macy's employees started tearing clothes off the rack to try to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Covered in blood all over the place. And the supervisor's like, here's the company Polaroid, take crime scene photos. So I'm shooting fucking Polaroids of a pool of blood of a dude I know.
That is wild, man.
And then I had to finish the fucking route. Some poor bastard almost got himself fucking shot inside, because it was inside a mall in Calumet City, Illinois, which is right on the Indiana border.
Okay.
And I'm finishing up the route. I had one of the pickups inside the mall after the shooting. And of course, everyone inside the mall had heard about the fucking shooting going down. It's been a couple hours at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And some dude, as I'm walking through, yo, best watch yourself around here. My gun came out like, the fuck you just say to me? Like, that dude just like, like, the fuck did you just say to me?
Man, tensions are running high. I think I'll smack talk the guy with the gun over there.
Yeah.
You know?
And technically, I learned years later, me pulling my weapon out in that situation might have been a felony.
Yeah, no, sure. But, again, tensions were running high, and I think that that guy had obviously been to hot dog on a stick. He was like, well, what else was I going to do today? Oh, I know.
I'm going to antagonize the guy whose friend just got shot.
Yeah, this seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea for me to do this today.
Oh,
Wild.
Absolutely. Like, that job at times was fucking wild.
This is all what was interesting to me, and I don't know like how you feel about this stuff, but like, so I had the thing where I was like, oh, that kind of fucked me up to see that dead body, but then I realized, like I said, I wrote this big book about Los Angeles where I wrote it during the pandemic, and I emptied myself into this book, and then we just had 2 years where I haven't refilled my life with experiences because we had the pandemic, and seeing this dead body, and this is such a narcissistic thing to take this old man's death and make it about my growth as an artist, but I'm about to. Is that I was like, oh, fuck, I need, even if they're traumatic experiences, like I have to go out into the city and like have things happen again because like I'm empty. I'm like, I've done nothing. I've lived in like a fucking mushroom for 2 years and like I have to go out and like, so that's why I was saying like before we started rolling, I'm thinking about like kind of like doing amateur night crawling for my next book is like, because I just like, no, I need to go out and like see blood stains and like people screaming at each other and like whatever it takes. Like I have to go and subject myself to that again.
No, I know that feeling so much as someone who does a weekly fucking talk show.
Oh, right.
Like I've definitely felt like devoid of fucking experiences. There's been points where I'm back in my head, I'm like, is the show getting stagnant? Like, I haven't gone on an international trip. I haven't really gotten into any super weird shit in a while. Like, am I just telling this? Am I recycling the same stories over again? Like, no, I 100% identify with like, no, being an artist, being someone who's expressing their art, you have to have experiences. You have to like be able to retell those stories. You have to relay that shit.
Right.
Like, if you're just like, I sit in my apartment all the time, listen to what I have to say. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a writer tell me years ago, a TV writer named Tom St. George, who I worked with, he just said it so plainly. He's just like, the tank empties. He's like, any writer will empty their tank over the course of a year or two if they don't refill it. And it's just like, right. And you partially can refill it with art. Like partially you can watch movies and stuff. But if you do that too much, you just start making movies that look like other movies.
Yeah, you're just regurgitating someone else's art.
Right.
Those aren't your experiences.
Right. And podcasting, I'm sure, is the same. And the other danger is like start just saying the shit you heard somebody else say on Twitter or whatever, TikTok or, just the fucking shit everybody else talks about all day long.
Or celebrity gossip, or a rapper got shot at Roscoe's this week, or...
Now, I will say that is a part of my professional interest, is that rapper who got shot at Roscoe's this week, because... the rumor is that it was because his girlfriend geotagged them in an Instagram post and said, hey, we're all at Roscoe's. And so they haven't proved this yet, but one of the theories is, oh, yeah, like somebody follows this woman on Instagram and said, this motherfucker's at Roscoe's. Like, let's go get him. And they went and robbed him.
Hell, they don't even have to follow her. If they tagged Roscoe's and they're looking at Roscoe's page.
Well, that's true. And it's like, oh, my God, that big rapper who's always wearing those giant chains in the video. It's exactly what happened to that guy, Pop Smoke, who got killed in the hills. Same thing, partying at some house in the hills and let some picture
fucking had racks
with racks, and then the address is just in the background of one of the photos or something like that. And that's all it takes, man. And so I actually am really interested in that, just from that progression of like, LA is not safe, is like the catchphrase, but it's like, man, I don't know, like $50,000 chains on your neck, and then you're going to a restaurant, and like, I'm not the victim blame. I was totally about the victim blame, but
well, hell, Ice-T came out and like, you see LA rappers don't fucking flex like that. Like, I guess we are talking about it.
Yeah, I guess. I'm sorry. You brought up as a thing that would be lame to talk about, and I was like, ooh, let's talk about this.
I don't even think that it's on South Central. Like, he could have been at the Hollywood Roscoe's and had the same shit go down.
Yeah. If you're like, if you're putting it out there like that is like, you're really putting it out there.
Pop Smoke was in a very, very fucking rich neighborhood when it went down.
Yeah, I believe it was actually owned by one of the housewives of Beverly Hills. So like, you're talking about, that's the neighborhood it took place in. No, I find all that, and again, like a lot of what I'm doing right now is trying to figure out how to take crime fiction and treat it like it's happening right now, because I think there's always, with particularly male crime writers, this urge to look to the past when men were men, and it's just a bunch of people punching each other. So I'm always looking for ways to find out, like, how is crime working now, while still keeping violence and stuff into it. So to me, like, I mean, I literally wrote a chapter this week that had like that as its basis. Is like, again, I always fictionalize my stuff, so it's not, I don't use that guy's name, but like, but it's a fascinating way that things are elevating.
And did you hear about like the interesting twist on it that like his family was fighting with the medical examiner about getting his body back?
No, I didn't hear about that part.
Because he's a Muslim. Like, I guess traditionally you have to be buried within 72 hours of death.
Right.
And the medical examiner wouldn't release his body. They're like, we don't want an autopsy. Like, it's a homicide. We have to.
Right.
So that's another interesting angle on it.
I'll have to look that part up. I didn't see that yet. I haven't followed it in a couple of days.
As much as I'm like, I don't want to follow them. Like, every time it pops up, like, oh, this is interesting. Like, crime interests me. Like,
the whole, again, like, it's something that nobody is really writing about right now, and I find very interesting. I don't know how much of this I'll work into my next book, but like, I even got very deep into now I can't, Draco the Ruler's murdered. You know, like, he was the one who was this big up and coming rapper here in LA who went to like there's a giant music festival with like Snoop Dogg and Al Green.
Oh, that Christmas.
Where he literally like parked backstage and got jumped by something like, I think they said they counted 70 people were part of like the gang that jumped him and stabbed him to death at a music festival. 0 arrests, by the way. The cops don't really break their necks to solve rapper murders. You know, they did catch Pop Smoke's people. They did catch that.
Well, yeah, from what I understand, they were not subtle about it.
Well,
and they were like fucking children too, weren't they?
I'm sure they were. I mean, you know, gang, because I believe they were Hoovers. Not to get all like gang politics, I don't really know, but like I believe that's what they were. And so yeah, I think one of them was a juvenile, at least one of them. So like, again, it was just like somebody went, hey man, we can go to this place, and we know that there are stacks of cash there because they're literally. It's just a different version of that original thing of the bling ring, which was like literally when like Paris Hilton would say, I'm going to Ibiza this week. And then people would go like, great, let's go break into Paris Hilton's house, you know?
Yeah, it's wild that like some people are in this age in 2022 are not social media aware enough to be like, oh, hey, I probably shouldn't geotag things. I probably should be aware of like the surroundings of where I take pictures of things.
Right. Or like, you know, I had like my Instagram locked down for a long time. It was just for family. And then I have a new book coming out. So the publicist was like, come on, like you have to get this open. And it's like, okay, great. So when I
should have started a second one.
I should have. I really should have. But you know, I have hard enough time maintaining one. And it's just like, okay, don't put vacation photos up until you're back from vacation. Like, it's just a very simple thing to do. It's just like, don't be like, hey, look at me here now. And, you know, there's, I don't know. I'm probably saying I live off Colorado Boulevard. And
it's a pretty long street.
It's a very long street, actually. So you're right. I didn't say where, but like,
you did say Eagle Rock, but.
Yeah, but I mean, also like, I'm not wearing a giant gold chain either. So,
well, I've probably halfway doxed myself a couple times, like on this show. But at the end of the day, if you're coming for my recording equipment, I have a shotgun.
There you go.
Because that's the only thing of fucking value in this apartment is my fucking recording equipment
and the shotgun.
Shotguns were $300, man.
Okay.
Mossberg 500s are not expensive guns.
Hey, is that true? You can get a Mossberg for $300?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, I have a 12 gauge Mossberg with a 7-round tube. I think I paid $250 for it.
Yeah, and if for some reason you would need more than 7 shots of your shotgun, hey, just go ahead and die. I mean, come on, like.
I mean, if I have used more than 7 rounds of my shotgun, my neighbors are well aware that it happened.
Yeah.
Because I've blown holes in a lot of things at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a horrible neighbor. I loaded with buckshot and slug.
Okay. So what's the slug do in that scenario?
Slugs put really big holes in people.
Okay, so but why mix them both? So you want the slug is so you can aim at somebody and hopefully put them down with the slug, but the buckshot kind of gives you a little margin of error. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the buckshot is not going to penetrate walls as well. The slug will.
Yeah. Great. I'm sure that thrills you.
I'm sure it thrills my neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm sure it thrills my roommate too.
I mean,
that's been my home defense piece for a long time.
Yeah. So. Well, I don't have one, but I do understand that a shotgun is they say that's, if you're going to have a home defense thing, have that. And also just for the reason that you can just rack it. And like that really, if somebody doesn't run when they hear the shotgun racking, you're in real trouble at that point because they're crazy.
Well, thank you, Hollywood writers, for making that such a thing.
Yeah.
Like, that is all on your profession.
You're welcome.
For racking the shotgun and be like, oh God, he's going to kill everybody.
Well, it's a scary. I do love. You work in TV for a while, and I'm sure you noticed the same way. This isn't just for working in TV. The way that when somebody picks up a gun now, it always makes a noise. Anytime a gun is in somebody's hand and they move their hand, there's always just a little noise. And you go, well, that's so fake and phony. But if people don't put it in, it feels wrong because we've all become so accustomed to the fact that like guns make noise when you move them in movies that part seems weird. The way that like in movies, people act like gunshots aren't loud.
Jesus Christ, they are loud.
They are loud. I like to, in like my LA Confidential pilot, I have a scene where a guy just shoots a gun off next to somebody else's head, and like the guy screams and like grabs his ear because it's like being done as torture, because that's torture. It's like you're wrecking somebody's hearing doing that.
Well, and potentially burning them with the gas too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and getting the what do you call that? The gunpowder spackle and whatnot. And
well, when I first got into armed security, like I didn't know shit about guns. I didn't know shit before I got into doing armed security.
Mm-hmm.
A job I fucking fell into. And one of my buddies who was very firearms proficient, like, oh, you should look into getting a Glock model, whatever it was, C, which is the compensated model. So it has there's vents on the barrel that help alleviate some of the gas for less recoil.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you don't use that in real world non-target shooting scenarios, because sometimes you may have to fire a gun right next to yourself and you'll fucking burn yourself.
Right. Yeah, that seems bad.
It is, but it's just one of those things where, like, as someone who didn't know shit about guns, oh, that's a thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing? It shoots hot gas out the end of the barrel?
Right. Yeah. No, again, you're right, because we grow up. You watch Rambo shoot like an M60 from the hip, and not run out of bullets in 5 seconds, and it's just like, surely that's a bad idea in real life.
Have you ever fired a 12 gauge shotgun?
No, I never have actually.
So part of like firing a 12 gauge shotgun is you need to lock it into your shoulder pretty well, and then you got to kind of rock with the shot, because if you don't, it will just slap you in the shoulder and leave a fucking bruise here.
Okay.
That's not something that, like, some bad motherfucker just, like, one-handing a 12... Good luck one-handing a fucking 12 gauge with anything beyond bird shot.
Well, I mean, to me, the only person I can think of one-handing a shotgun is Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2.
Or Ash in Evil Dead.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But I was just, right before I was coming over here, I was just looking for something to watch. I started watching the documentary Pumping Iron. Have you seen that documentary?
I've seen clips of it.
It's worth watching the whole thing, but you also get it from the clips of like, because it was before Arnold Schwarzenegger was a movie star, and they try and make the documentary about other people and him. But I mean, obviously we have the benefit of hindsight knowing he's a movie star, but you just want to put the camera back on that guy, because that guy's awesome. He's crazy and weird. And I'm sure if you've seen a clip, it's the one where he's like, when I get the pump going, it's like I'm coming. And so when I work out, I'm coming. When I go home, I'm coming. I'm always coming. My life is fantastic. And you're like, man, this guy's going to be governor someday.
Right?
Yeah.
As a Republican.
He doesn't, well, I mean, I guess, he is he is a California Republican, which is not anything like any, well, no, that's not true, because you have the whole Inland Empire, or the whole central of California.
And the OC. Shit.
The OC. I guess he's that kind of Republican they don't really make anymore. Right? Like just that kind of like, well, I would like low taxes. And I vaguely disapprove of abortion, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of it kind of guys that I guess you would just call moderates.
What's that in America?
Yeah. They don't, those guys are gone. I mean, what do you got? Like Mitt Romney, who can only do it because he's from Utah, and they just like him because he's a Mormon. So they don't require him to be the level of insane that like, I'm from Springfield, Missouri, which growing up, it's a deep red, very like conservative Christian place. And I got out of that place. The first piece of writing I ever did that I got paid for, I was in high school, and I wrote an essay in my high school newspaper about how much I hated my hometown. And the local daily paid me, and they reprinted my essay. And that was the first thing I ever got paid to write, was I hate my fucking hometown. And so I got out of there as soon as I could. And now all of America, not all of America, but America is just, my hometown has just grown and metastasized. And like, that's the entire Republican base now is the way people in my hometown have always acted is just made that's the entire gig now. And it's wild because those people suck.
it's become a religion, and you can't argue religion with facts at all.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. And it's. I mean, I'm fumbling just because you're like, just shut up, just like chill out, just be cool. I am just a hippie at heart. I've come to realize that I like all punk rock and metal, but at the end of the day, I was raised by hippies, and I just fucking be cool. You know, my motto in life, I try very hard, is just I'm not a cop. It's like do whatever you want, but I think a lot of times people get wrong. They think they're not being the cop in the situation, and they are, and that's most of those Republican people. Is they're like, well, I should have the freedom to discriminate against other people. It's like, no, that's you being a cop. You being discriminatory is you're the cop in this scenario, guys. Like there's a guy named Karl Popper, the philosopher, who years and years ago, came up with this idea of like, if you want to have a world free of discrimination, you have to discriminate against bigots. Because if you don't discriminate against bigots, they will take over. And that's where a lot of these bullshit free speech arguments come from. And I grew up, like I said, in a very conservative place where my older brother ran the punk rock club in my hometown. It's called Harper's Bazaar. And he wouldn't let in the Nazi skinheads. And we had a lot of Nazi skinheads.
Oh my God, in the Midwest, never. Never.
We had the national headquarters of the Hammerskin Nation were in my hometown. Yeah. And so, he ended up getting, actually, at one point, he got jumped by a lot of Nazis and got put in the hospital. But I was just there one night where it was just some stupid 16-year-old Nazi punk who we wouldn't let into the club. And I say we, I wasn't like a big part of this. I don't want to steal, what do they call it? Steal valor. But I just remember having this conversation with this kid where he's like, well, you're the one discriminating against me because you won't let me in the club. And it's like, yeah, but you're a Nazi. And like, we have friends who like are, black and like, Filipino, and like, so we have to pick. And so we're going to pick them, not you, because if we pick you, then we're automatically not picking them.
Right.
And that's the exact same, that argument hasn't changed at all with all these people. Oh, we're, the mean libs are pressing us down. And it's like, yeah, because you're a dick. I'm sorry. Like, and everybody has access to books now. My tolerance for like racist or, oh, my dad's a racist, but he's not so bad. It's like, yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. It's 2022. I'm sorry. Look, my grandma was racist. She sucked. Like, sorry, she did. Like, you don't get some pass just because you don't want to feel bad about the fact that you have a shitty person in your family.
Yeah. Guess what? Don't do what they did if you think it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's really that easy.
I know. I was just reading it.
Have some critical thought.
Yeah, have some critical thought. And it's like, oh, but, come on. You're saying you never have a racist thought. You never have. It's like, well, not like that. No, I really don't. I'm like, we all have like little implicit things that you catch yourself like,
But you don't act on them.
You don't act on them. And there's a huge, and that doesn't somehow implicate you with the Nazis. Like, it doesn't mean, well, now you're like no, it's like, no. Like, at some point, the word racism got so flattened, where we count microaggressions and all that. And there are such things as microaggressions. That's not the point. The point is like that we made it all one big pie. And we said, so this is racism over here. And we're using the exact same word to describe the Nazi skinheads. And it's like, maybe we're actually hurting ourselves by...
Well, because nuance is dead in America.
Oh my God. Well, completely. And we, again, whenever you start talking about these things, you always want to make sure, like, I'm sure I have my things that I'm a dick about. Like,
oh, I definitely do. Lots of them.
But not about that stuff. Not like that one I'm pretty confident on is like, no, like, just because you occasionally have some kind of thought that was put in your head at a young age that you can bubble up. You can have all sorts of thoughts and bubble up and recognize them and label them and go, ooh, man, that was a racist thought I just had. And then you move on. And
right. You don't act on it.
Don't act on it. And you move on. And like, I mean, I'm sure, even more than racism, the thing that's changed the most since I was young, it's just like, you watch a movie from the 90s and the way we used to talk about gay people is wild. And I mean, like, look, we all have our comforts that we run to. And occasionally when I'm going to sleep at night, I will watch the sitcom Friends, not the hippest show to watch, but like,
I mean, I will stare at 90s Jennifer Aniston whenever you give me the opportunity.
Also that. But like, You know,
her nipples were very prominent in that show for some reason.
you just like, she's wearing a suit. How can I see her nipples? She's wearing a suit.
But I can.
But I can.
And I'm happy about it. And why did Brad Pitt ever leave her?
Well, Brad Pitt's from my hometown, and I will tell you that there is a heartbreak at the heart of Springfield, Missouri. They never accepted the fact that he dumped Jennifer Aniston. They were just like, no, because she seemed like such a nice girl.
Hell, she dated the lead singer of the Counting Crows. She's obtainable.
You're right. I never realized this. I have a shot.
I mean, I would take that shot today.
But
I mean, she would probably like leave me heartbroken, but I would try.
Hey, that's all you do. Look, we have one life, shoot or shoot, you know? But all I was going to say is that the way they talk about gay people on that show is, and I think they were trying to be very liberal, but like they just keep making jokes. There's so many jokes about, wouldn't it be funny if these people were gay? And it's just like, I'm not saying none of those jokes are ever funny, but it's just like, wow, we have changed so much.
We have, but also like, I will freely admit, like, I was at a fucking STD clinic the other day, and the person asked me like, "Oh, you know, who are your primary partners?" And like one of the nurses like, "Men?" I'm like, "No." That just came out like zero thought. Like, no,
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with being gay. Like, you're not less than for being gay. Like,
Right.
But the fucking in the back of my head to like just spurt it out like that, like. It was a weird moment for a second there.
Right before I got into TV, I was living in West Hollywood, and I needed a job, so I interviewed at a video store, because this was long enough that video stores were still really a thing. And like I had at the time, like I had been a film critic. I'd written reviews for the Village Voice. I was like, as far as art films go, I was very qualified to be a film guy, but I was in West Hollywood, so they take me to the back. And the manager sits me down, and she's like, I just have to tell you that like most of our proceeds come from our adult section, and most of that is gay because we're in West Hollywood. So I just need to make sure that you don't have a problem with this. And I don't know how I didn't see it before, but I swear to God, she gestures behind her shoulder, and there is a framed photo of an erect cock just right behind her. And she goes, you just got to be okay with this. And like, it's not like I screamed or anything, but I just kind of went, oh, yes, yeah, totally. And I didn't get the job. And I'm sure some guy who knew less about indie film, but just looked at the cock and went, that's who got, and who should have gotten the job, because it's true that I probably would have been weird about some guy. I would have laughed at the titles of the films when they, you know, like and again, it's not like I was like, oh, I hate gay people, but it was just like, I still have that thing that it gets locked up in you, and you just go, oh, I'm big. Oh no, what if somebody thinks, what if some guy tried to, you know?
Well, and that's the funny part is, in this day and age, if a guy hits on me, I take his compliment like,
oh yeah,
it means I'm looking good tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because normally I am not, you know, the gay's cup of tea. They're like, oh, you're painfully hetero.
I would think you would fit into like, there's that whole bear.
I mean, I'm someone's cup of tea for sure.
Yeah,
but I've definitely like hung out with some, you know, gay folks, and them been like, oh, honey, no. Like, oh.
I was when you first reached out to me and said we should do this again because it's been so long. I was like, yeah, we should. And I just like checked your website out or your YouTube page, just see what you'd been up to. And so I clicked on a link. So I'm going to talk about something that was on your podcast.
All right,
it'd be great for your usual listeners. But it was a woman, and you asked her like, who's the best lover, and she said gamers. And first of all, okay, all right, I'm going to take her at her word. And she was like, it's because their fingers move so fast. They have such great coordination with their fingers. And all I could think about is like, I'm just so glad there's something new in sex, because like, I'm so out of it at this point. I have my happy, like, just, you know, monogamous life that I lead. And that there's a new category of guy who would be considered desirable. I just think that's great. And so I'm taking her at her word. And I'm just very glad there have been like technological advances thanks to like fucking Twitch streaming video games. That's what I have to say.
We're old.
Yeah.
It will continue to go on without us. Like, time does not care about us. It just will continue to evolve.
I hadn't really been to any shows since the pandemic was over. And I went to the Hollywood Forever, where they have the Masonic Lodge, which is such an amazing place to see shows. And I saw this woman named Ethel Cain. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ethel Cain.
I don't know her.
She's like 25 years old. She is like kind of trans white trash, who sings these like really slow, sad ballads. I think she's great, and so I went to this show, but I really had that experience that it's been a long time coming in my life where I was like, I was the old guy at the club, you know what I mean? But it was great. I mean, because I just accepted it, like, because it wasn't like, oh, I'm like 5 years older than everybody here, or like, oh, I'm like 10 years older than everybody here. Like, most of the crowd looked like they were 20 years old. So I'm more than 20 years older than them. And it was because she is trans, I think, you know, she attracts a very queer audience. And so it was this just audience of like, you know, straight people and gay people and non-binary people and pink hair. And it was just like, I didn't look anything like anybody there. And it could have made me feel alienated, but instead it just made me feel really good. Like, okay, the kids are still finding new ways to be weird. And that's because I was a weird kid growing up in Springfield with back then it was like the 8 earrings and the shaved bald on the side with long on top, you know? And now it's like pink hair and if people want to say they're non-binary, that's a thing they can do, which is like, again, it's just, I actually really had a great time, but it was like, I was standing in the middle of the crowd and then like pretty early on, I was like, no, wait, my place is in the back. Like, you know, like I should just stand at the back. Like when I saw, like I've seen Henry Rollins at the Masonic Lodge at other shows and he's always at the back, you know, because that's where you go when you're like the
elder statesman.
The elder statesman who's just checking in and going, all right, the kids are okay. I don't know. It actually made me, because I mean, look, I had a lot of fun when I was 20, but like, I don't want to be 20 again.
On one hand, I wish my body felt like I was still 20.
Yeah, that's different. Yes. But,
oh God, I'm so happy I know the shit I know now. Because I thought I knew a lot of shit at 20.
Yeah.
I thought I had the world by the balls at 20. And holy fuck. No, the world had me by the short and curlies at that point.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I didn't know shit. I know shit about shit. No, I agree. The degradation. I've had 2 teeth extracted from my jaw in the last like 2 months because of like when you have bad root canals for long enough, eventually they just have to pull the tooth. And boy, that'll make you. So I currently have like 2 gaps, which A, makes eating corn chips really hard. But B, when they do it, they literally they pull the tooth, and I had an infection in my jaw. This is so gross, but like they put in bone graft, which is literally ground up bone from a cadaver that they use to get your jawbone to grow back. So
did you recycle that old man?
Well, it's funny because I really did start to think I was haunted, because that happened to me about a week after I had the bone put in my tooth. This is true. This sounds made up. So 2 days before I found the dead body, I was riding in my girlfriend's car, and I looked down, and she has one of those radios where it like kind of flashes words at the top of the radio, you know? And I swear to God, I looked down and the radio said, "Do it, Jordan." And I was like, oh, fuck, like, what am I supposed to do? And then I realized This Is How We Do It by Montel Jordan was playing. But still, in that moment when I just saw the thing, I swear to God, if I had in my head been asking myself, like, should I do blank, whatever it was, if I had seen that, I would do whatever I had been contemplating. Fortunately, if I had been like, God, I wonder what it does feel like to kill somebody, and then I had seen Do It Jordan flash up, I would just feel like, okay, now it's time to start. You can't argue with fate like that.
I mean, if it's gonna land you in prison, maybe.
But good news is I went. But I did think later on, like, because I never did. I had some people say to me, like, I can't believe you went in that house when that woman said that. I never felt like I had a choice. But maybe I felt like I didn't have a choice because the radio told me, "Do it, Jordan." But so when they put the bone graft in, what they don't tell you is that some of it's going to work its way out. So occasionally you'll just be picking bone chips out of your mouth. And then, if you have enough of them, you're not going to bat 1,000, right? So like I swallowed a couple of them. So I am an accidental cannibal now. And that's just part of me.
Well, you slacker. Accidental.
If it happens again, I'll make sure to just cherish one of them so that it's...
You should have cut a piece off that old man and fucking grilled him up.
If you had seen that old guy, you would not know. He was not the color. You don't go, ooh, green flesh. That,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the old Chris Rock bit, green meat, that's what's bad for you. I'm butchering that, but he had a whole bit back, it was part of Bigger and Blacker about talking about, red meat will kill you. No, green meat will kill you.
Yeah, that's right. This is so, that was, unless it was just like, I was like, oh, maybe it's preserved like salt pork. I don't know. He was real dead, man. It was really something. But yeah, I felt like as soon as I had the bone chips put in, my life got a little more supernatural. So I am aware of the idea that there's like weird shit just might keep happening to me. Like I might have died. Maybe I died, and this is all a Jacob's Ladder scenario.
You're doing this podcast in hell.
Yeah, it could be. It's like,
and now we drink. Eternal torture.
Yes. Wow. It seems like we've been recording for 300 days, and then you turn red and the horns come out. Very possible. Very possible. Yeah. Wow. We've been all.
I really don't want to do that kind of post production. That's a lot of fucking work.
A lot of post. Well, that's your hell.
Yeah.
That is your.
I like. Why are his levels off? Oh God. Why? Oh, just fucking 300 years of why is this not rendering properly?
Oh man.
Editor's hell.
I'm sure. Oh man. And this file's corrupted. Everything's corrupted. You're in hell.
Corrupted lets me off easy. That means like, I'm just done with this project. It's done.
It's done. What are you gonna do? It's corrupted.
Yeah, the EQ not being quite right. It's like, fuck. Okay. What frequency do I gotta fucking That's actual hell. Like okay, I have to raise the EQ, look for the bad signal. Why? Okay, reduce it.
Yeah,
real post work. It's corrupted. I'm just done with it. Like there's nothing I'm doing at that point.
That's
so
fair.
What is also hell with corrupted files is like, and this has happened, accidentally clearing an SD card that wasn't cleared and then trying to run software to restore it. Like, I have to get those files back. I accidentally deleted SD. Like, that's hell.
Mm-hmm. That sounds, this is all so beyond me. Like, it's just like, you start talking about that, I'm like, yes, that sounds like hell. My
audience is like, yeah, we don't do this shit either. Like, why are you bitching about this? Like,
folks, there's going to be a quiz at the end of the podcast. So,
right. What is it like in a week in Matt's life of fucking doing post-production work? Just post-production gone wrong. It's my life.
That's your life. I don't have a life right now. It's interesting. I don't have a job, and which is fun for like a little bit, and then gets to be very.
You live in LA in 2022. How do you not have a job? How do you not just create stuff for yourself?
Well, I do. No, I write novels. That part I do. But
so you have a job?
Well, yes. But the thing about writing novels is, and I worked this out during the pandemic. There are a lot of ways the pandemic was very bad for me, and it was really bad for other people. But I figured out my pattern that I like when you just cut me off from everything else. What I naturally do is I go to bed very early. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning without setting an alarm. And it doesn't have to be 5:00 because I don't set an alarm. I just like there to be a 5 at the front. And then I work for like 2 hours on my novel. Basically because Megan tends to get up at 7:30 or so. So I kind of just work until she gets up. And that's all the work on a novel that I basically do in a day. So if I have a TV show, because I did work on TV shows and stuff during the pandemic then I just go to work and I do my job. But recently I haven't had that. And I read books and I keep things and I try and keep busy. But, I am right now in a place where like, yeah, I wouldn't mind like a job where I know paycheck. Like this book isn't coming out until January. I have another book coming out this month in the UK called The Last King of California, which isn't coming out in America right now.
Why not?
Well, it was a little darker and weirder. It's sort of like a White Trash Seven Samurai. If the bandits coming in were all the Aryan Brotherhood and the farmers that they were going to take over were meth cooks and car thieves, and then the samurai coming to save them is just this one skinny 19-year-old kid who's returning to his family for the first time. But it's really dark. It's all set against the California wildfires because again, I'm always trying to find ways to work in right now into crime stories.
Was this the wildfire started by someone's fucking gender release party?
Gender release party. I honestly almost put that in. It's
a boy. It's a giant fire.
Fucking California for you. That's just so wild to me. But no, the book. It's not as poppy as my other books. It's very Cormac McCarthy. That's what I was going for anyway. And I had this other book kind of coming at the same time because I was working on both of them simultaneously, and I knew that Everybody Knows was going to be a bigger, poppier book. It's about Hollywood and all this stuff, and it's very exciting and it has a very tight pace to it. And so, I mean, I tried, again, we're talking about how the middle is gone and everything. So it used to be that you could have like 6 or 7 little books and then you'll have a big bestseller. But now they only want the bestsellers. They don't want you to have the little book first. And so I sent it around. Everybody's like, I'm sorry, it's not going to be a big bestseller. And I have moved to the realm where I sell to major presses now, and I could sell this book to an indie press, but then that would be seen by the industry as me taking a step down. So it's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this big poppy book everybody knows, and hopefully it's successful. And if it's successful, suddenly this book's going to become more attractive to people, And so that's the plan right now. And if they don't do that, then I'll self-publish it here in America. That's the great thing about books. As somebody who's worked in Hollywood, is you work on something in Hollywood like LA Confidential. At the end of the day, they can just say no, and there's nothing. I can't go out and like me and my pals, let's get scrappy and film the LA Confidential show on our own.
I mean, you could.
Well, you could, but it's not going to be the same as you can just finish a book. We are entering this age where you have like podcasting, stand-up comedy. I have a friend who's Doug Stanhope's manager, and he's always talking about like what a pure art form it is. And he's right, because it's just like it's nice if you have a microphone, but you don't even really need a microphone. And any art form that allows you to just go off and do it, and there's nobody who can say no to you.
That's what I espouse about podcasting. That's what I love about this medium is this is the last Wild West medium.
Yeah.
There are no gatekeepers.
Yeah.
You can do whatever the fuck you want here.
No, it's true. And even the corporations that are kind of set up around it to monetize it, be it Patreon or whatever. I mean, I'm not talking about the production side because I know nothing about that side, and I'm sure that there are plenty of people who are just jackass monetizing it. But like, you're right, there are like places that try to be gatekeepers, Stitcher and things like that, but they're not catching on. Like, not the way that just the Wild West of Patreon is.
Hey, you can be on the Wild West of Patreon. You can just. I know podcasters that literally just do it on their iPhones, like a mic plugged in, hell, just recording directly into their fucking phone. What other fucking medium can like, hey, this device that I have to have with me to function in modern society allows me to create my art?
Yeah. I mean, I have some friends who do a podcast called Agitator that's about Japanese cinema, JDO and Kelby Losak. And they both have like toddlers, and like, they can't, like, you can't tell a 2-year-old be quiet, so they don't. They just like
feed them whiskey till they go to sleep.
So they'll do episodes where you'll just hear that, their kid like is there in the room with them. And it really does just kind of add to this, like, almost like it's the punk rock of having toddlers, but it is like this, like, fuck you, we're doing a podcast. And so, yeah, our kids are here and deal with it. Like, you need your little pristine audio. Well, you can't have it because we have toddlers. And
I know that pain all too well. Not toddlers, thankfully. No one wants to let me anywhere near toddlers. But like, there are very regularly Hollywood sounds like in the background of this. I live near a fire station. Shit happens.
Oh yeah, and by the freeway, and they're just choppers in Hollywood all the time, right?
Yep.
So yeah, no, you're right. It is. It feels like it's a medium where there's still room to grow. And there are the people will find some new areas to explore. We don't need more true crime podcasts. It feels like that niche is filled at this point. And I think about doing one sometimes. I would do. I don't know. I'm not here to pitch a podcast, but like, I always wanted to do one called The Way in All Things, which is based on that samurai Miyamoto Musashi, who said like to know the way of one thing is to know the way of all things, which is if you master one art, you kind of have an insight into the world. And I just would love to talk to creative people in a million different fields and just talk to them about the act of creativity, which is something that interests me a lot. But I would love to find a stand-up comedian and a podcaster and a painter and a guy who makes those little fishing lures, that people use for fly fishing, that I guess is some delicate art.
Or talk to someone who makes traditional soy sauce. Like, I watched a fucking YouTube video on like the traditional way they make soy sauce in Japan. It's like, holy fuck, that's art.
Oh, I bet.
Or like the traditional like Japanese fucking tea kettles. Like, it's a dying art. It's like, oh, hey, this isn't commercially viable. There's only a handful of families that still make this shit.
Oh, have you ever, or like knife makers? My grandfather was a knife maker, and I've started watching that. There's like a reality show that's like Top Chef, but for making swords. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's pretty fun. Like, you watch one episode, you've kind of seen them all, but like, But you look at me, oh my God, these things are beautiful, and like, oh yeah, to find somebody who could make like a real samurai sword the way they used to make it with the folded steel and all that. Yeah, all of that. I just find it so interesting that like, the whole idea of a procedural on television is that it's inherently interesting to watch people do their jobs. And I just think that, we're making jobs less fun to watch by automating them. And, I'm not sure it's true of watching somebody do a job at a call center, but like, watching a butcher work, like to watch a guy go from like a side of beef to like the steaks and have him talk you through it and talk about that would be interesting. Like
Definitely. And it's also, in 100 years, does that job still exist?
Well, that's a fair point. What jobs will still exist in 100 years? I mean,
not mine.
No. I mean, I don't think that an AI can write a book better than a human being can. But for now, but I will, I will take the position of like, I don't think ever, but like, I think what they will be able to do is write the kind of books that are bestsellers close enough to make it worthwhile for the publishers to go, you know what? We don't need authors anymore.
Well, at the point where the AIs are writing better books than us, they'll probably just put us all out of our misery at that point.
I'm ready for that too. I'm not quite ready to die, but I'm far enough along in life where I understand why you get to the place where you are. Do you know what I mean? And again, I saw this thing on Reddit the other day. It's so weird to get like a epiphany from Reddit, but it was a baby that had been born, I guess probably through a C-section, obviously through a C-section. It was still in its amniotic sac, so it was still wrapped up in just a little baby. It was asleep. You know what I mean? And then what they do in this situation is they cut open the amniotic sac, and the moment that air hits the baby, it starts crying, right? And so Reddit, obviously, somebody's going to say it. They go, hey, would somebody put this in reverse? And so what you had was this crying baby that they put, and it just gets wrapped up in an amniotic sac, and it just goes right to sleep. And if this is goofy, it's goofy, but I was just like, oh yeah, that's all death is. You're just getting put back in. And like, you were cool before, right? So you'll be cool after.
I believe Roger Ebert said something very similar, like as he was dying of cancer.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm not afraid of death. And this is when he was just like a flapping jaw, and he went out rough.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why he probably wasn't afraid of death. It's like, I mean, again, like a weird place to find an epiphany is when you have food poisoning. But like, I one time had food poisoning that was so bad that I didn't want to die, but I understood why people who get sick want to die. You just go, oh, right. Like when that place where you can't control your body at all anymore. And you're like, oh, it turns out I'm not in charge. Like I thought I was in charge, but my body's just letting me think that. But the moment that I have food poisoning, it's like, no, I'm in charge. You're puking and shitting at the same time. And you don't get a choice about it. And you're like, I am out of food. Nothing is coming out. And it goes, I don't care. And it just keeps pressing the button. And you go, oh, right. Like you get to a place where I'm sure Roger Ebert was like, it's like, nah, I think death is better than this. But you also just go, it has to be at the end of the day. Because if death is really, really bad, then life is a horrible tragedy. So like, I mean, you can't get to pick how things are. You just goes, is that really what you think about life? Or is it just like, people sometimes are tragically cut short, but like if you live a good life, then like.
But what constitutes a good life?
Well, that's up for everybody to decide. I think probably has a span that is longer than what I've lived. I think you want to make it to your 60s or 70s and not, family as you define it, which does not mean, I have no children. I don't want children.
I'm not having any.
Neither am I.
I had a vasectomy, so.
So did I.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we talk about that too. That's a crazy thing. You know how they make you come in and get your sperm count first?
They didn't do that for me.
They didn't do that for
Nope.
you? They didn't check first to make sure?
Nope.
Well, they gave me the thing. They're like, they're like, it can't be in the sample jar for more than 20 minutes, right? And so I showed up and I'm like, where do I go? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I got to make the sample. They're like, you're supposed to do it at home. And I'm like, well, I live more than 20 minutes from the clinic, so I can't. And they're like, okay. It's not at all like in the movies. In the movies, you always see it. They're like, they have like porn and in a special jerk off room. No, they just put me in some fucking office with people walking by, all of whom know I'm trying to jerk off. It was look, I've been jerking off for a long time now.
I'd hope so.
Right. And I'm pretty good at it at this point. I'm not claiming, I'm not Prince. I'm not saying I'm the Prince of jerking. I'm just saying I'm a journeyman,
Well, Prince isn't the Prince of jerking off anymore. He's quite dead.
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying, like that. I'm just saying, but I was like, it was not fun at all. This was like, it was miserable. But then, and the worst part is, then you got to walk out and you got to be like, "Here's my bag of cum," like. And you didn't consent to this either, but like, this is just what's got to go down. Here's my bag of cum. I mean, there's a bag with the jar in it, but still,
Yeah, they didn't do any of that for me. Like, I just went and got it done.
Yeah.
I was talking to the doctor while I was good. I'm like, I probably should have gotten like a test to make sure I've never had a pregnancy scare in my life. I'm like, I probably should have had a fertility test done before I did this, but here we are.
So you didn't go all the way under. You did just like a couple of Xanax bars in local.
A local and fucking as much nitrous as I could fucking puff. I filmed it.
Oh, wow.
Doctor let me film it.
Huh.
It's on my YouTube channel.
Nice. They put me under for mine, which I think it could go either way, but like
I was mugging to the camera and making jokes the whole time.
Yeah.
I had to negotiate with the doctor. Like, the audience has definitely heard this, but I had to negotiate with the doctor to let him to film it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I didn't run it by him before I showed up.
Oh, yeah, you took a risk there.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like, I didn't really like. There was no pre-consultation. I like made the appointment and I showed up and I got it done.
That's wild. I went to two doctors because the first doctor I went to was down by MacArthur Park, and he was definitely like the waiting room was just full of like people who were getting their prostate checked one more time before they died. Like it was just a waiting room for the afterlife. And then like I went in and the doctor was he was ancient. His hands had a shake to them, and I was like,
Nope.
I think I'm gonna. And I felt like this guy probably hadn't done one since they used like cauldering irons or something. It just felt like it just felt like a bad. So I went to the west side, and that's why I had to drive so far. It's because my guy was in Beverly Hills, but like yeah. So I did a little shopping before I got mine done, but like no, you did the poppin' doc.
I did. I 100% did. So I got mine done in Vegas.
Wow. I'm sure they just, they like, we'll marry you, we'll divorce you, we'll vasectomy you.
The doctor was great, but the reason I did it in Vegas is because me and a friend were supposed to normalize brosectomies. We were supposed to both get our vasectomies done the same day.
High five.
He unfortunately did not get his done.
Oh, man.
But I booked in Vegas, and this practice is like, in a clinic, and he's only there like twice a month. Like, it was just, he was renting a room in a clinic.
Wow.
And first time I met the doctor was the day we got it done. Like, hey doc, do you mind if I film this? He's like, no. And I explained to him what was going on. I'm like, I've done some vlogs about this. I'm a professional podcaster. I was written up in the Daily Beast last week about getting this done.
It's good advertising.
I'm like, he's like, well, you can film your face. I'm like, bro, I've worked in porn for over a decade. My dick has never been on film. I'm not starting now, of course. Yeah, I was just going to film my face. Like, hey, let's introduce Matt's dick to the world. Non-sexually. Like, no, why would I do that?
No. That's no debutante ball for your balls.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for it, and it was local, and I got to self-administer the nitrous oxide. I, like an asshole, was not using the exhale valve. I was just blowing it. And I realized halfway through the procedure, like, I probably should be blowing the nitrous oxide towards the doctor who's working on my dick.
Right, yeah. You don't want him to get drowsy.
Or just get the giggles. But I filmed the whole thing. I'm remarking about the smoke coming off my balls as he cauterized them at one point.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad you were able to do that, because, yeah, mine was just like, it's that thing where you just wake up and you go, are they going to do it? And they're like, it's done. It's done. Now go home because your balls are going to hurt soon. Which they did. It wasn't awful. It was fine. It's a minor procedure, really, at the end.
Did you come blood afterwards?
I didn't. Did you?
No. The first time I went to rub one out afterwards, because they said that a side effect could be coming blood. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Am I going to be a Cannibal Corpse song here or not? Nope.
Yeah,
looks the normal.
I will say that I was not looking for that, but the whole thing, you just have images of like a garden hose that has a hole in the side of it, just like, what's gonna happen now? It just makes me nervous. It's That's good. The whole like pop and doc thing, or the thing which I have no experience with whatsoever. These now there are ketamine clinics here in Los Angeles, and I'm gonna try them because I need to try ketamine, and that seems like the best way to do it. But I have no. They kind of popped up everywhere in LA overnight. It feels.
Well, yeah, because you can't have shitty doctors prescribing marijuana anymore.
That's what it was. These guys needed new jobs, and now they will hook you up to an IV and give you ketamine.
Well, it's crazy. So there was a slight point where like I tried to get into the medicinal marijuana industry, and I went to a couple meetings, and they're like, "Oh, these are mob fronts." In a lot of cases, these doctors are mob fronts prescribing like the marijuana cards back in the day. So I would assume these are still mob fronts, like prescribing ketamine.
I'm sure you're right. I mean, a lot because I'm so old and lame. I don't have any connections, in that world anymore. And I am like, again, like the way that I want to do ride-alongs and go night crawling. I feel like ketamine feels like the drug of the moment, and I just need to know what it feels like for my books. And so I'm going to go out and try some. And I don't think I should go out, score some drugs on the streets of the mean streets of LA anymore. So, it's like I'll just go to one of these clinics and at least you can be pretty sure that it's going to be actual ketamine that they're putting into your system. I think. I hope. I don't know.
I mean, if someone's got a license, I hope.
Yeah. And it's just where I am in life is it seems like an interesting thing to do anyway. And it's the one thing that really got popular since I stopped. What else is new? Drugs seem like they're pretty. It's just all the same stuff anymore. I mean,
they're fairly passe. Boy, I've done a lot of mushrooms during the pandemic, though.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get back into that too. Those are good for you. That's just good for your soul.
Exactly. Honestly, between 2020 and now, I have done more mushrooms than I had in the last decade beforehand.
Wow. Yeah.
I was just like, the studies coming out about how psilocybin can help, treat depression and all that shit. And I was just cooped up in my apartment. I'm like, yeah, I could do some mushrooms.
Yeah.
And I did some mushrooms.
My best experiences with mushrooms were always when we didn't think we had enough. I find that, whenever I do the Terrence McKenna heroic doses, less of a good time than when you just oh man, we were going to split the bag 3 ways, but now we have to split it 4 ways because Matt showed up, and so, we're not going to trip as hard as we want. Those were always my best times with it. And the things where I learned things and stuff, but that's just me. If people can handle the superhero. I just had some bad, my college girlfriend, telling me she's dead for 3 hours. You know what I mean? One of those trips where you're it seems like a really easy argument to win. But it's not. It's not. She's like, I'm dead. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, I don't think, but you're on mushrooms too. So the argument goes south really quickly. And it's just very hard to win.
I mean, you just eat around and be like, your pussy tastes alive.
There you go. But then, you start doing it, she's like, you're necromantic in her eyes. And now it's oh God, it turns out you're a necrophiliac. And
well, she shouldn't kink shame.
That's interesting. That is the last frontier of kink shaming right there. Is necrophilia. That is the one thing where it's really not going to get a lot of people hey man, you don't yuck somebody's yum.
Yeah, that one.
And I have seen the people who think they're so cool of being hey, the body is dead, the consent isn't an issue anymore. It's hush up, no, we're not going to be doing that. We're not going to be fucking the dead bodies. You need to.
Well, they can't give consent if they're dead.
Exactly.
You have to go to their next of kin to get consent at that point.
Yeah, and good luck with that. I mean, somebody would. I'm sure.
I mean, can I fuck your dead grandpa?
And again, it's just the whole don't yucks. Again, my whole life is I'm not a cop. That is my catchphrase. That doesn't mean that you're not allowed to occasionally cock an eyebrow at somebody's behavior. And I'm not stopping you, but I'm allowed to be And again, a lot of kink shaming talk sometimes it's if somebody says, ooh, I love to get pegged, and you go to them and you say, that's disgusting. That's kink shaming and you should not do that. But like that does, but you're allowed to, in the privacy of your own home, go, "Ooh, that's gross," which is not my opinion. I'm like, go for it. That's awesome. But like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we've become such cops about people being. You go around the bend of like, it just, you know, it's not even really about kink shame. I'm just really thinking about on the internet when you like criticize Marvel movies or something, and people go like, "Don't yuck somebody's yum," and it's like, well, my yum is fucking pissing on those bad movies. So. You know, no, I really don't care about Marvel movies either way. I'm just saying, like, you know, everybody is so like, it's just a fucking firing squad of cops these days online. I feel like, and everybody's just.
Oh, the internet has made it so everyone's opinion matters.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I've said this before is like, the internet trains people to treat art like a cop following you on a country road. You know, just looking for that reason to pull you over. Everybody's watching everything going, I cannot wait to find the reason I'm offended by this. You know, like I saw that.
I can give you 300 odd episodes of this why you can figure out why you're offended by it.
Why you're offended by it. And again, like I also think that people who are out there like just trying to be as shocking as possible are also boring. But it's like, man, we really are just in a place where like, if you listen to everybody, you can't make, there's no art you can make. Like somebody's going to get mad about all of it. Like, well, what, you're writing about poor people, but you're rich. What, you're writing about rich people? Who cares about rich people? You should be writing about the people who are struggling. You know, like for any argument that somebody's going to make online about why you shouldn't make a piece of art, somebody's going to make the exact opposite argument with the exact same, like, you know, kind of proctoring, lecturing tone at the same time. So.
Once again, this is why I love podcasting, because you can just make that art and no one can fucking stop you.
I don't think you would mind me quoting. Like I said, I'm friends with Brian Hennigan, who's Doug Stanhope's manager. And, you know, the thing he always says about making your living this way is like, nobody can hurt your career if they weren't already giving you money. So like, you can't cancel Doug Stanhope because you weren't going to Doug Stanhope's shows in the first place. So you can't quit going to Doug Stanhope shows. Now, that's not true for people who have network jobs where they can be fired, you know, but like if you are a person who's just going to get on a microphone and talk, and as long as you're not doing something so crazy that they're going to like deplatform you for being Stormfront or something.
Or Alex Jones or...
Right. That, you know, that you can get up here and you can say, and as long as you're talking to an audience that's gonna respond to it, then that's the whole ball game.
And sometimes I'm not talking to an audience to respond to it. Trial and error.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, the other great thing about what you do these podcasts is, you know, like it takes me 2 years to write a book. It takes me 2 years. So if I misjudge the audience, well, I'm fucked because I just took 2 years to write a book that didn't sell, and now the publishing industry is going to hold that against me. But you can just keep going and building and changing and seeing what works, and you're always testing, and you're always...
Oftentimes I do things that I know may not work. Like, at the end of the day, my audience often does not really dig episodes that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Like, I've had musicians on that, like, I was totally geeked out about having on. My audience gave zero fucks. But guess what? Sometimes I got to do them just for me.
I understand. Well, I hope that, you know, your audience is thrilled and overjoyed to have the podcasting stylings of me here today.
I hope so too. Shit.
You know, it's I don't know how many have you had a lot of authors on? Or
a fair amount. Every one of them gives me shit about being illiterate.
What?
I don't know how to read.
You don't know? Well, why would you?
Elijah.
Yeah.
I know how to read that one.
You've just learned to sound that out through the. You got to know what to ask for at the liquor store. So
no, I just point.
You just point. Yeah.
Like, I live in modern technology. I took a picture of it once. I'd go up to the counter. I point at the picture.
Right. No, it's got to be really hard to be illiterate. I was about to say, I wonder if it's easier, but I'm sure it's actually a lot harder.
Depends if you're rich or not.
Well, okay. Also, fair point. I mean, you know, we were talking about like these celebrities and stuff, like the books I'm writing right now. And one thing you start to realize is that after a certain period of time, the question of like whether or not a celebrity is sane becomes sort of a meaningless question. Because what do you mean by sane? Do you mean like could go out in the real world and operate? The answer is no. If they've been famous for 25 years, they are no longer capable of operating in the real world.
Oh, I have a theory that like being famous for too long definitely negatively affects your brain and fucking chemistry.
Oh, well, I would say, so I was just last week, I was this thing called BoucherCon, which is the big crime fiction convention every year. And I am not famous, but for like 4 days a year, I go to a place where I am like semi-famous, like where people will actually go like, that's Jordan Harper. Not everybody. I'm not like the big belle of the ball. I mean, there are big name people there, but having that for 1 week out of the year and then going back to their regular life, I think that's as famous as anybody should ever be, because it just feels really good for a week, and then you immediately go back to your life. And again, I'm not even there. It's not like screaming throngs or something. It's just like that is the place where there are people there who know who I am, and that feels good. But like, I think when you talk about the life of an A-list celebrity, it sounds like fucking hell to me, like hell.
Well, you also add in the fact that like your whole solar system is people whose livelihood depends on keeping you happy.
Yeah, yes, and so you live these like completely like zipless lives of you just like float through things, and you think that you know. Sorry, the other day, like Sean Penn, who's an amazing actor, has published at least 2, and I think maybe more novels, and they are like fucking dog shit. I mean, they're like fucking dog shit.
But I'm sure his name is bigger than the title.
That's right. And that people will post them, and it's because he has got to a place where he doesn't have enough people around him to be like, not this one, Sean, get back on stage. You know?
You punch Madonna a couple times, and you make headlines.
Well, also that.
Allegedly.
I think those are pretty well established at this point. I don't know.
I'm not looking to get sued by Sean Penn. I'll lose just because I can't continue the fucking court hearing.
No, that's true. And that's why, when we're talking about this new book, that I'm very like, oh, maybe I could say allegedly and name somebody, but you know what? I'm just going to not do that. Like, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to talk to a lawyer about the lawsuit that's coming because I did something. It's just like,
I'm waiting for that day for myself.
Oh, well, I mean, because you're just you libeling back and forth. You just like,
I try not to. I say allegedly a lot.
Yeah. Well, you just never know anymore. Like, they'll sue you in England. That's when you're fucked, is when they sue you in England, because they have different libel laws there.
I know a barrister. He mostly does trademark law, but maybe he knows a guy.
Well, maybe he knows a guy, and so you're okay. But their libel laws aren't as difficult to prove libel as ours are. That's why they're always doing those lawsuits over there.
I mean, at the end of the day, what are you going to sue me for? My shotgun?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But boy, it's just better not to go down that road, at the end of the day.
I agree. Though, honestly, if an A-lister sued me, the publicity could help the show.
Yeah, well, there is that. And that, again, that's something I'm keeping in mind with the book, is like, no publicity is bad publicity. No publicity is bad publicity. Just let this happen. My Twitter profile, I might have to be one of those people who hire somebody else to be on my Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, I think that might come someday, but other than that, it's like, just no publicity is bad publicity. Just keep going. Just keep.
I mean, if someone sued me at this point, I could just look at it as my marketing budget.
Yeah, there you go. And you're ka-ching, right? I mean, I think that's true a lot of the time. I mean, how many books or movies, and you see it with like, even if a movie's made with good intentions, like, you just have to know, and I want to be clear, I don't give a shit that there's a black Little Mermaid. Like, I don't care. Like, cool, whatever. If that makes somebody happy, that's like a big thing now. Like, everybody's super angry because they fucking love the Little Mermaid so much they can't believe that you would make a mermaid black, which is just like, but
I like, clamshell redheads as much as the next guy, but like, who gives a fuck? I'm more upset than Disney's continuing to make live action remakes.
That's the truth of it. It's like, can we talk about the fact that the movie probably sucks? But like,
why? Why is there unnecessary remakes of The Lion King, The Little Mermaid? Like, the animation was fine. Just re-release this fucking special edition, Disney. You don't have to spend the budget to fucking make live action versions of this shit.
But you start to realize that there's like kind of this like kayfabe relationship going on between publicity people and again and the people who get angry, and then the people who get angry get retweeted by the people who are angry that they're angry, and it's just this huge loop of everybody's angry at everybody, and it's like a helicopter spinning around, and they all take off, and it's like, oh, this actually benefits. They both sides benefit each other. Like they are both secretly grateful for the other because it lets them have something to.
Oh no! If people weren't upset about, like, I wouldn't put it past Disney if, like, we're going to cast a black Little Mermaid just to piss people off, just to get the free press.
Well, again, I don't have a problem with it. I like that there's a black mermaid, but like,
Oh, no, I mean, I'm completely agnostic. I don't care.
yeah, I don't care. But the thing is like nothing that Disney Corporation does is out of altruism. Like literally nothing they do.
No.
And if they do something that appears good, it's because they want to appear good, and not because they are good. They are not capable. Disney it's a little like corporations are literally the closest thing we have to demons. Like literal demons, they're immortal. People serve them. Like people who work at Disney serve this thing that they.
You have to wear special underwear to work in the park.
Do you really?
So I've been told.
Oh yeah, I got you.
I mean, I don't know for sure. That's another allegedly. Disney, don't sue me.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear the special underwear. It's more special than the Mormon underwear.
Well, the thing that again, I was saying, like I don't want credit for writing a book, or I don't want to act like a hero. Like if somebody's getting rich, it's not actually social justice. Like if somebody somewhere is making money, it's making money. That's all it is. And if you want to do good in this world, you don't get rich doing it. And if you're getting rich, then you're not really doing good. I just feel that very strongly. It's like, and again, that puts me in the camp of I have chosen getting rich, or I'm not rich, but like
You bought property in LA, sir.
all right, fair point. I have chosen that over doing good, which doing good is feeding people in soup kitchens. It's being part of legal fights that are getting people access in jail to like, I mean, I don't know if you like the LA jail right now, they're having like injunctions put on because people are being chained to chairs and left there for 3 days. And like, so there are people leading legal fights against that. That's doing good. Whatever the Disney Corporation is doing is not anywhere in the same ballpark as that.
See, like my mentality is I'm not here to do good. I'm just here to not do evil.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's like a valid life choice to make. And I'm just, but you're also not walking around being like, I am, I'm doing good. You're not, that's the part where it gets sticky is when people, they want credit without doing the actual work. And again, to me, like if you're getting rich, sorry, like you have removed yourself from the realm of people who get to like wear halos and things. And those people exist. There are people who dedicate their lives to doing good. And
yeah, I don't understand it.
I don't either. It's not. I wish I was more like that, but I'm not. And I just. But I also don't try. I try very hard. Like I'm suspicious of people who think that they are really good people. Like I'm deeply suspicious of anyone who thinks in their heart that they know exactly what's going on and that they are good people. Because I just,
as you should.
Yeah, I find that really creepy. It's like, really? I even like, I mean, talk about.
Because also, like, if you're like, I'm really good, like, what morally makes you better than anyone else, motherfucker? Like, how do you put yourself on a pedestal where you're good? It's questionable. It's all questionable.
No, I agree. And I just, to me, people who I have met who I think are doing good tend to be really hard on themselves. And I think it's something else that's driving them that might actually not be psychologically healthy a lot of the times because they're making all these sacrifices instead of living the life they have to live. But like somebody who's just, and you see, again, like that's another way that the internet is poisonous. It encourages people to present themselves of having the answers.
Well, the internet is all about virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm holier than that. Like, no, you're just trying to get more likes.
Yeah, and you get into a really weird twist of it of like, also a lot of people who present themselves as like, who like say, oh, you're virtue signaling, not me, can also be a form of virtue signaling. Not what you were just saying, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like online people who are like, because you're also like, people are like cynically like, oh, I don't care about that stuff. It's like, yeah, but you think that's cool and you're also virtue signaling. And I don't know, man. It just took me a really long time, and this is really banal, but it took me a really long time to not try and be a person online. You know what I mean? Like Twitter is not a place to be a human being. You're at a party with literally everybody else on earth. Like that's not a place to be yourself. Like that's a place to pick the image that you want to put forward, and not in a psychopathic way. It's just like if you were at a party where all the old folks were at, and all of your bosses were at, and everybody is at that party. It's not a great place to just say, this is me. Podcasts are a great place to be completely yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Depends on who you are.
Well, yeah. Also, you have to live and die by the fact that, if you're an asshole, you're an asshole. If you suck, you suck. But but you know what I mean? Like,
But this is still the image you are presenting to the general public. This is still on the internet forever. So this potentially should still be curated. Maybe not to the degree social media is curated, but this still should potentially be curated. I'm really bad at that time.
Well, no, and that's a fair point. You have to remember that part. But I just feel like, there are things where I would try and be real on Twitter and and just no, actually what people want from me on Twitter, from judging by likes, is talking about books and movies I like, talking about my work. I still tweet or retweet a lot about the sheriff's department because I'm obsessed with sheriff's gangs and
alleged sheriff's gangs don't come for me.
and the LAPD and just policing in general. But I try to be a lot less political. I definitely during the pandemic at some point got where I think a lot of my friends probably muted me because I got very into politics and very into tweeting and talking about politics, which there's nothing wrong with that. But again, that's where do I really have a lot of people who follow me on Twitter because they want to hear me talk about politics? And also, do I think I'm winning people over? And the answer to that last one, I know, is no, I'm not. And again, if I do have one little thing where I like 90% fun, entertaining content and then 10% trying to make people aware of just how bad the policing in Los Angeles is, maybe I can do a little something. But
does anyone win anyone over on Twitter? Does anyone follow anyone that they don't always already agree with?
Well, they only to dunk on.
Right, but you're not winning those people over.
No,
either.
but no, not at all. And that's where you see how awful the system. It's literally in the real world. If you see a turd on the street, you don't pick it up and show it to all your friends. Maybe you do. I'm not kink shaming, but
I don't get sexually aroused by that. I do it for the lulz.
For the lulz. I'm not lol shaming. But my point is but Twitter is all based on the idea that, oh my God, look at this awful, horrible turd I found. Everybody look at this turd. And you think by the fact that you're dunking on somebody you disagree with, you're somehow owning them, but all you're doing is spreading their message around. And I do it too. We all, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm just it's something I try and be really aware of. It's why are you trying to amplify things you think suck? Maybe, just try and amplify things that you like, because doesn't that just make more sense?
People get the likes from dunking on people.
Oh, yeah.
And then the dopamine hits from oh, I got a bunch of likes. I got new follows for this negative interaction. My positive interactions don't get nearly that much fucking traction. Well, I guess I'll just keep doing this negative shit.
Well, no, and that's where I think that Twitter is very much built on this model it's built on this model of everybody's at the same party, right? And these people should not all be at the same party together. And so you're right, again, on a normal platform where the way message boards used to be, where, people would still argue on the old message boards, but hey, we're all here to talk about weightlifting. We're all here to talk about skateboarding. We're all here to talk about Star Trek. As opposed to just finding weird, again, it's this idea that there's anything unusual or special about the fact that you found an asshole somewhere in this fucking universe. You were able to locate an asshole and you were look, everybody, I found this. You've never heard of this guy before. You have no idea who he is, but he's being an asshole. So look at him. And that should not be newsworthy. Yet you're right. And by the way, again, do I like dunks on people I don't like? Yes, I absolutely do. And again, I'm not claiming to be very. It's just I'm becoming more and more aware of it and how much of my mental space goes into it.
It's a fuck situation.
Well, because
at least you're becoming aware of it.
Because what are you gonna do? Quit? You can just quit social media? That's not an option.
Not in our line of work.
No, it really. Because along with all the bullshit, I also, I follow a bunch of reporters from the LA Times, and I follow a bunch of people who feed stories that I click on and go, oh my God, this has to go into my next book. Oh my God, I need to know what people are talking about. I just need to know what the basic vibe is. You need to know what the vibe is. And so all you can do is be aware of it and try and titrate it a little. I find, like I said, I do my writing first thing in the morning. And one of the reasons I started doing that during the pandemic was I learned the moment I opened Twitter up, I was basically done being super creative for the day. And I really think it's just because you're inviting a fucking parade of cops into your head. Because I mean that very, writing is a lot about taking the cop inside your head and knocking him out for a little while. So you can just write stuff without that voice in your head going, that sucks, that's stupid, that's not original. That kind of imposter syndrome stuff we were talking about. Like, it's about, you have to at least tie that guy up and throw him in the corner while you're doing that original drafting. And the shitty part is you have to wake him up at the end of the process because you do have to edit and you have to fix. So you can't kill him, but you got to knock him out. And Twitter is just full of people. Like I said, it's like cops following other people, looking for a reason to pull them over, and just exposing yourself to just cop think constantly. Just that, do this, don't do that. If you do that, you're a bad person. If you're a bad person, you'll never be forgiven. It's just not real useful to the creative mind, I don't think.
I agree, but then you also get other shit where it's just like, oh, I wouldn't be aware of this shit if it wasn't for Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like music, there's music I've discovered, movies I've discovered, ideas, books, philosophers. Like, I mean, like there's a ton of stuff that like, that you got to try and balance it. But you're right. I can't imagine living completely without it at this point.
Well, one of our mutuals was like talking about, oh, hey, I'm going to just delete all my social media. I'm like, dude, you're a professional content creator. How?
Yeah. That's not an option, my man. Like, you can't do it. You can't, you know, and I mean, we're talking about this in a different context, I think, off the air, but like, I have friends who are women who are fairly prominent in, you know, in like film criticism and things like that. And they're on Twitter, and it sucks for them. Like, it sucks, but they just feel like they cannot walk away from it. And it's like, yeah, it means that I get a lot of creepy people talking to me and a bunch of guys trying to explain movies to me, even though I'm a professional film critic, and like, you know, and I'm sure creepier things than that happen. And they, you know, but they just feel like that they don't have a choice. So if they don't have a choice, what fucking choice do I have?
Exactly. Unfortunately, in 2022, social media is a necessary evil if you want to be in the world, if you want to be a working creative.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and again, like, it's just not even like you don't want to, like, I don't want to write a book where I got all my slang from Twitter, but like, I kind of need to know how people are talking and what they're talking about, and like
dead ass.
Yeah. Boy, that one's tough. Fits, you know, instead of outfits, he's got a good fit. Like, you go, okay.
The drip.
Yeah. I guess.
Welcome to Boomers Talk Slang.
Oh, it's awful. It's boomers. Come on, Gen X.
Yeah, I know. But for the Zoomers, I just wanted
they don't make those differentiate.
Right, like y'all older than us, y'all boomers.
That's true.
Y'all had sex in the 90s.
I mean, a thing I try and do very hard in my work is to just make my own slang up as much as possible. And not in like a flamboyant way, but it's just kind of that trick of like, this will never go out of style because we're just going to make it up. So it won't feel dated, because nothing feels more dated than slang from like 7 years ago, you know? Which I can't, now I'm trying to think of an example.
Yeah, I couldn't know off the top of my head. I'm like, no.
Well, like, how old is like, the whole like cat, like, I can has cheeseburgers, you know, like that kind of like.
Oh, that's over a decade old.
Is it? Oh my God, kill me now.
That is like 2010 shit.
Well, yeah, I guess that's right. So
I definitely still say I has. Look,
yeah. Oh, and then you take a drink to drown the sorrow of knowing death is just around the corner.
Oh yeah, I'll be dead soon. Like every time shit goes bad, I just remind myself, like, it doesn't matter. I'll be dead soon.
Yeah, well, you best hurry, because California is like not heading in the upward direction right now.
Oh no, we're just in some performative bullshit for the rest of the country.
Oh.
Like, oh, we're going to all have 20 electric cars by 2035, but our power grid definitely can't support that.
No, I know. And it's just, oh, and will that stop the state from catching on fire every year? No.
Oh, no. It will actually probably worsen the problem as we don't replace hooks, you know, for P&G up in the fucking, you know.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. It's just like, I mean, we're fucking doomed. And that's why I was talking about that.
I mean, we're all doomed. It's okay. It's the human existence.
Well, that's true. But you were just kind of hoping again, like, I was hoping to make it to like 65 or 70, you know?
Why?
I don't know. Just to make sure I did everything. I haven't been to Tokyo yet.
Tokyo's amazing.
Sorry,
audience. He started me. My bad.
Oh, really? Is this a thing?
Oh, it's a thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, Tokyo's my happy place.
Okay, that's my bucket list. That's like the extent of my bucket list now is really Tokyo.
Well, let me know when you want to go, because I will happily go back.
Noted. No, we were gonna because we were supposed to go right before the pandemic, and then we had to cancel it.
I haven't been since 2016.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe it.
I keep checking Japan's like website, like how can I get back in? And they're not letting tourists
They're
back
still
in.
not letting tourists back in.
Seoul's letting tourists in, which might be like the methadone to.
Yeah, I also really want to go to Seoul. What's fascinating about Tokyo right now is that guy killed Shinzo Abe, the former prime minister. Yeah. And it's got to be the most successful assassination ever carried out by a lone nut in the history of the world, because he killed Shinzo Abe, said, I did it because he's connected to that church. That church took all my mom's money. And the entire country of Japan was like, yeah, we don't like that church either. That sucks. It really did work. He wanted to raise awareness of the corruption of the government. And people were all like, he's right. And
didn't he fucking 3D print the gun?
Well, he made it
he made a zip gun.
He made a zip shotgun. And
well, that's the best way to do it. You don't have to have no rifling.
Yeah, and it looked like there's an old Japanese movie called Bullet Ballet from the 90s. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I have not.
It's a really good movie. It's very dark. It's a very weird black and white movie. It's by the guy who made Tetsuo the Iron Man. But the entire plot of it is that a man's girlfriend kills herself with a gun, and he decides he's going to join her in death, but he is also going to use the gun to kill himself. And the rest of the movie is about how hard it's a movie you could never make in America, because in America he'd walk down to Walmart, buy a gun, shoot himself in the head. But in Japan, it's really hard to get a gun. And so the gun that the guy makes in Bullet Ballet to try and kill himself looked a lot like the gun this guy ended up making to kill Shinzo Abe. And you go, oh wow, so it's a good argument for gun control, and the idea of boy, if you want to kill somebody in Japan, you gotta mean it. And so this guy meant it, and it feels like people are taking it seriously, and they're actually going, well, wait, why did he do it? As opposed to here where people.
Well, but it's also you look at other societies, how other societies handle COVID. There's just so many other ways of oh, hey, other societies handle shit a lot better than us and a lot differently.
Oh, for sure.
Fuck, during COVID, one of my friends who lives in Perth, one person got infected and the city had shut down. And they had on a government website, where that person had been. Could you imagine, just for LA proper, oh, hey, we're going to track the one person that has COVID.
Right. Well, I don't know how it was for you. I didn't lose anybody who was really close to me during COVID.
I didn't lose anyone who was close. I definitely lost some people I knew.
Well, it's sort of the same with me. I had two of my neighbors die of it, and my next door neighbor and then a person down the street. And I just, you just go, people are saying, well, it's just the flu. It's I had two neighbors die of the same thing in the same 3-month period. That doesn't happen every winter. This is something else. This is something real. And
he was an acquaintance. I wouldn't say he was a friend, but an acquaintance of mine died of it. He was in his early 50s, and it was horrible because he kind of live tweeted his own death.
Oh wow!
He was making Facebook updates oh hey, they're gonna have to intubate me and put me on, and then he just never came out. Facebook updates of his own. Welcome to dying slow in fucking 2020.
That is rough. And I think we got off. I know there were some bad times in LA, but I have a friend who was a bartender, still is a bartender in New York City, and he knew a lot of people who died. I think it just ripped through that city right at the beginning. And
well, yeah, they're so fucking on top of each other.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine. One of the reasons we put such a emphasis on buying a house when we did was that Megan and I are both writers, so we both were suddenly employed in the home, and our old home was just not. It was too small for that, so we had to find a place that was a little bit bigger. But I can't remember where I was going with that other than just say we just it's changing everything. Have you done anything really interesting? Have you changed in some way that you've noted?
I definitely got fatter.
Yeah, me too. I'm now confronting that. That is I did the thing where I weighed myself last week, and it was
I'm not doing that.
Well, I
can just tell by my band t-shirt's not fitting well.
Oh no, I already made the switch 2 months ago. I went okay, time to be honest. I have to move up to the next size. That just has to happen.
Oh, I made that choice last year.
Yeah,
that was a year ago, and I'm I should do something about this.
But I think we're entering into an era now where we can kind of find something new. I just started getting tattoos for the first time in my life in my mid-40s, and I got my first tattoo and went, oh, fuck, I'm going to get a bunch. Which I know there are some people who would be oh, that's lame, or that's midlife crisis shit, but I don't care. Like,
If it makes you happy, who cares?
yeah, exactly. And it's just like, what are you, a fucking cop? Like, what do you care? But I think I didn't think about it until I got a couple that I was like, oh, I think this is about like coming out of the pandemic and like making like I want to change in some like essential way. And that's just one way that I need to do that. But I think we're all going to find these weird after moments of like redefining ourselves and like awesome. Like that's always great. That's always good. Like redefine yourself all the time, you know?
As long as it's positive.
Yeah, oh absolutely. Yeah. No, and I mean I think, you're talking about like, yeah, I gained weight. I think a lot of people either developed or discovered that like the substance abuse problems that just happened because there was no fucking guardrails on anything anymore.
Honestly, I drank less in the pandemic.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, mostly I drink socially. Like, I'm out at bars. I like to do shit. So it's like, oh, I'm at home. I mean, I did a lot more mushrooms. A lot. Well, that's medicine.
Positive. That is medicine. You will never convince me otherwise. See, and that to me, not to, like I said, I don't drink, and it's because I'm not like that. To me, that just lets you know that great alcohol is great for you. You don't need to worry about it.
Oh, I mean, I have to worry when I'm out of it, but
no, but like, yeah, I think we all found like weird things, and I know there were like a lot of like divorces and things like that, because I think I get it. Like we didn't really fight a lot, but you do get to a place like, man, we are in the same room together a lot. Like, and I can see like if there were little cracks. I always think about like how funny it must have been, not for the people going through it, about people who just had like started extramarital affairs when the pandemic started, and they like, how did they all swing that? No, we have to quarantine, but I really want to sneak out and fuck somebody.
Well, and imagine that they bring COVID home with them.
Well, right. That's a whole new thing to bring home. That wait, I thought we were in complete isolation. Well, it turns out.
Well, whoops.
I was just my partner Megan was just in New York City, and she was visiting a friend in Prospect Park, which is sort of like a yuppie-ish neighborhood in Brooklyn. And she was saying that her friend was reporting that swinging and polyamory have suddenly are the new rage amongst. It's like a very 70s style. And again, like I'm not a cop, I don't care what people do, but I just think it's interesting that people are coming out of the pandemic. People who weren't swingers, weren't polyamorous before, are suddenly like, oh, let's try this out.
They got too much time on their hands. Polyamory is exhausting.
Oh yeah, I have a close family member who does it, and I asked him one time, like, how do you do that? And he's like, everybody's got to have Google calendars.
See, I catch shit from my poly friends, but I'm too busy with fucking work to hold down one relationship successfully, let alone multiple.
Again, like if it works for people, it works for people.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not hitting on them pulling it off. I'm just saying they're unproductive members of society.
That's right. And it's just too much sketch.
You could be starting a podcast, motherfucker, but you're fucking two people.
Well, they could, if they were thinking about it, you could start don't you call it's a polycule. So, right, that's when you have that's your polycule. You could do your polypod.
Polypod?
That must exist.
That has to exist.
Yeah, I didn't just come.
I'm not going to even Google that.
No,
that has to exist.
There has to be a bunch of them. And it's again, go with God. The one thing I never, and again, like, this is just my own personality, but like the whole like 70s key party thing where you put your keys in and it's just random. That just seems like, that just doesn't seem good to me. Like, really, you're just gonna, like, are you sure you want to fuck every single person in this party? Like, because you might draw that person's key.
Live a little.
Fair point.
I mean, what's the worst thing gonna happen? You spend 20 minutes with them. You hopefully both have an orgasm. You fucking shake hands, say good game, and go about your life.
Well, okay, when you put it like that, it just shows that I am carrying around a little prudishness that I need to expend from myself. But like
have you never hooked up with someone just like that you barely knew their fucking name?
You know what? Honestly, no, I never have. It never really. I never had like that game. I just was. I never. I've never had a one night stand in my life.
Oh my God, you should be doing that instead of tattoos.
I don't think Megan's going to sign off on that, but
have you asked her?
No, and again,
you're just making assumptions and putting your own prejudices on your relationship.
Well, no,
you should fucking ask.
No,
the worst she could say is no.
No, I mean, we did talk about, and it's really actually not something I really want to do because it's just, I think, again, there are people who are born without jealousy, and bless them, they can do that stuff. But I think there are people who get into that stuff who want to make jealousy not exist in themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you can, well, jealousy is just an emotion. It's like, yeah, well, emotions are real. You know what I mean? And I know myself well enough to know that I have that, and I think I know Megan well enough to know that she does too. That, like, it's just not, again, it works for some people, but
Yeah, but all you have to do is be like, yo, would you be upset if I got a massage?
mm-hmm.
This is physical pleasure brought on by a stranger.
Uh-huh. Oh, I see. So you're going to use like the boiling frog method of getting into an open relationship.
I'm not saying you get an open relationship. I just say you go get some strange with your partner's approval.
Uh-huh. Well,
that's not a relationship.
Then okay. Well,
it's an orgasm.
Our relationship would be open.
Open to orgasms, not polyamory.
It's the emotional labor.
Right. The emotional, so as my audience is well aware, I often date members of the adult entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to differentiate between physical acts and emotional acts. There's a huge fucking difference there.
Oh yeah, no, I there are, but don't you also think that like everybody's built different?
Yeah, but I didn't fall out of my mother's womb like this. This took time and experience to get to this point.
But there had to at least be a part of you that wanted to get to that place.
Not necessarily.
It just happened.
It was one of those things where, like, I was dating someone who was a performer. I liked them, and I critically thought about the situation.
Yeah.
And went, well, is this a deal breaker for me? It's not. And this is why. It's not a deal breaker because they're not emotionally involved with these people they're having sex with.
Right.
Sex in the grand scheme of things is fairly fucking meaningless. Though you've never had a one-night stand, have you ever had partners you can't fucking remember their name?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So in the grand scheme of things, why the fuck does it matter?
Yeah. No, you're right. That's interesting. And so, was there a point you don't? It's not that you seek out people who are in the industry. It's just that this is where you spend your time, or do you seek out people in the industry?
No, it's where I spend my time because, believe it or not, as someone who has never had sex on film, who has never had the desire to have sex on film, I get discriminated against by people who are outside the industry.
Right.
Just because of my involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Because of prejudice, drinking, and jealousy and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely, made plans to go out on dates with people and be like, oh, you work in porn? Nah, I'm cool. People still have those stigma in 2022 about that shit in their head. So
right.
I end up, dating for the most part with people that are open-minded or people that are working in the industry.
No, that makes sense. And how does that work? I'm sure you've talked about this stuff a lot on the podcast, but it's interesting. Like, do performers, I guess they also have to look for people who, they must be very tired of trying to date. I don't know if you say civilians or what do you say?
In a lot of cases, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of performers end up dating other performers, dating other people that are in the industry, or a lot of performers are fucking lonely.
It's funny because I think that's true of like a lot of performers in general, that like people think that like particularly female performers who are musicians or actresses, they either get approached by like fucking shitbags or they don't get approached at all because people like just assume they're not going to be able to have a normal relationship. And by the way, you can't have a normal relationship.
No, you can't.
With like a working actor or actress. It'd be because it's a crazy life. And you also there's a British rap guy named The Streets who has a song called like Before You Was Famous. He talks about how when he was not famous, he couldn't get girls. And then he got famous and now he can sleep with girls all the time. And the only time he feels like the way he felt before he was famous is when he tries to sleep with other famous people, And so there's like all these weird dynamics and like, they're very understandable dynamics because everybody lives in some kind of bubble, some kind of world. And you just feel more comfortable with other people who are in that, dynamic and world. It's why no matter how you feel about the class system in America, it's very difficult for two people of different classes to date
Oh,
at
yeah.
the end of the day.
Hell, I have definitely gone out with women who had some money and good relationships with their family, and I felt fucking weird about it. Like, I went on a date with a woman who was like, my mother is my best friend. And I was skeeved out.
Right. Yeah. It's
Like,
not your style.
Like, whoa. I see a family dinner in my future that is going to be real weird.
Right. Because you don't want to have that conversation again. You're assuming, and fairly, that you're gonna. That's just not a fun conversation with 95% of like the good parents of the world, right?
Yeah.
You make a podcast. I mean, what else do you do like in the industry? Like you're like producing, and you're like.
So I've done non-sex performances. Like I've worked on set.
Mm-hmm.
I started. My audience is well aware of this, but I started off in the industry like providing security for girls.
Oh, sure.
I've been around this in this for over a decade at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm not changing. So
no, why should you?
Nope. Can't think of a good reason.
I got pretty far down the road before I realized like that not only do I have a type, but as far as like the real relationships in my life, I have never deviated from it. And it's not a physical type at all. And that's why it took me so long to notice that every single like serious relationship in my life was with a very, very creative, very, very ambitious girl. And not ambitious for money, but like was creative and wanted to do something with it. So it's like all of my exes are like graphic designers or musicians or artists or writers, like all of them. And it's just like, I don't know what that is because I'm those things. And so it might just be narcissistic at the end of the day, but like, I don't know. And it's weird to look back and go like, oh, total fucking pattern. You know what I mean?
I wish I had such a clear-cut pattern. I really do. Because like looking back at it, it's all a shit show.
Yeah.
Honestly, my most successful relationships are the ones I started off by not giving a fuck about.
Yeah.
And that's fucked. like, hey, my most successful relationships, like, hell, my most successful relationship, I was annoyed with her.
Mm-hmm.
Or like when it started off like, oh, she's hot, but she's kind of annoying. And like stuck it out. And then all of a sudden, like, I had fucking feelings. Like, that's not healthy. That's not healthy at all.
You stuck it out for the hot?
Yeah.
Hey, human being, man. That's not that weird.
It's a bad thing. It's should take some self-examination. Like, oh, hey, why did you stick out? I mean, eventually I grew to fucking love her and like she treated me well for a minute there. But like, why did I stick out with someone who like I was attracted to and I was annoyed with?
Mm-hmm.
And like, as an older man, oh, my tolerance for fucking doing things I don't want to do is zero. Like,
right.
Like, oh, you want to go to a show that like some band that I will fucking hate? Have fun. I'll catch up with you later.
Also, you know, like I was trying. I have a friend named Krista Faust, who's a crime fiction writer who was in her day. She was a dominatrix and worked in the industry. And she was talking about like she used a term. I think I don't want to misquote her, but she was basically talking about like the monogamy, like radical monogamy, where you expect the person not to just be your only sex partner, but kind of be the everything of your life. And that's the part where I'm like, yeah, I don't like. Megan and I, like, we don't watch the same TV shows. We don't watch the same movies. We go on vacations together, but we also go on vacations apart. You know, like people who don't do that, like people who will be like, oh, I want to watch that, but, you know, she doesn't. So I haven't watched it. I'm like, that's like, what are you doing? Like,
I wholeheartedly agree. Like, but people that like all of a sudden they're in a relationship and like, oh, you two are attached to the hip the whole time. Like, whew, that's fucked. I ideally want someone who's going to be like a plus one, not like part of me.
Yeah.
Like I want someone who's going to compliment me, who has their own fucking life, has their own fucking friends, doesn't just want to glom on to what I'm going to fucking do at all fucking times, or expects me to glom on to what the fuck they're doing at all times. Like, let's do some shit together, but let's do some shit apart.
Well, you know, like people are in trouble. You can see it when a couple breaks up and one of them suddenly doesn't have any friends anymore because they didn't, you know, they had the couple's friends, and I feel like couple friends always all break the same direction, you know, and it's probably the person who was the person who was glommed onto, and so it's like, no, these people were my friends first, so they're going to remain my friends, and so you're fucked, and yeah, all that stuff is just I don't like God, live your life, like go out and just go to the movies by yourself. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. And as your partner, don't be toxic and be like, what are you doing stuff without me? Like, no, encourage your partner to do shit without you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean it, just like take vacations. Like, again, if you're going to Tokyo, go together. Unless one of you really doesn't want to go to Tokyo, but that's weird.
Well,
like,
break up with that person.
Yeah. But like,
though doing Tokyo as a boys trip is a lot of fun.
I could see that. I just want, I don't want to go a guy's trip. I want to go on a fat guy's trip. That's how I want to go to Tokyo.
No. I could definitely take you on the fat guy's trip. I know a amazing teppanyaki place in Roppongi that fucking does Kobe sashimi.
Ooh.
Like,
ooh, that sounds good.
Oh, it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, they say now that like that Tokyo is now we're talking about Tokyo is the #1 pizza city in the world. That that there's this huge movement in Tokyo now, and they make like traditional Napoli style pies, but like they're importing ovens, and they're all getting certified by that thing in Napoli that does it, and it's like. But they have that Japanese focus on food that the Japanese food people have. And so they're just like, no, we're just doing it better than Napoli does now.
That is like one of the things that I love about the Japanese people is like they take a thing and then they become obsessed about it. And then they try to do it better than the people that originated it. Like Japanese whiskey is Scotch.
Yeah.
And they're just like, nah, fuck you, Scotland. We're going to blow you out of the fucking water about it. Public transportation, best in the world.
Yeah.
They're just like, there are no half measures in Japan. They're just like, no. We're going to do this the best. Tokyo was the first place I went to and like, oh, motherfucker, America is not #1. America is #1 in marketing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The Tokyo public transportation system, their subway system, is the largest in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Infinitely easier to get around than New York City. Because every fucking station has a letter and number designation. So you go into like X station, it's like, this is H5 and M15. This is the 15th stop on the M line, the 6th stop on the H line. Right. And when you get on the platform, it goes, numbers go up this way, numbers go down that way. And all to get anywhere, you just find where it fucking corresponds. And then if you have to change platforms in the goddamn station, there's a sign that says how many meters you have to walk to the next platform.
Wow.
Like, holy fuck. I do not speak the fucking language. Zero fear of getting lost.
Wow. Noted. Yeah, I really want to go. I'm really, like you said, I'm just waiting for them to lift the rules and get on the program with America and say the pandemic's over. And
it is the ultimate work hard, play hard culture.
Yeah.
Because you go to a bar at 5:00, it is, as far as the eye can see, fucking people in business attire fucking throwing down.
I've heard, I've heard about that. They just that rampant alcohol, like just puke in the streets culture. That
oh yeah, no, there's a fucking coffee table book of passed out Japanese businessmen on Tokyo streets. It's amazing. I personally, sorry audience, I know you've heard this, blacked out drunk at Shibuya Station, like slept in a planter for hours unmolested.
They respect.
Yeah.
You gotta take a nap. You gotta take a nap.
In America, I would have woke up with no shoes and no money and no phone, like completely unmolested.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I can't wait. I'm really excited to go, and I can't think. There's no place else. The best place I've ever been, because I've never been there, is Bangkok. I don't know if you've done Bangkok.
I have not. I've not been to Thailand at all.
It is. I mean, it's an insane city. It is. You walk around at night, and there are so like every alleyway will have a food cart in it. They set up restaurants outside of other restaurants, like on the sidewalk. You know how now we have outdoor dining here? In Thailand, that outdoor dining would all be a second restaurant that only exists at night.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And you're just walking around and like, you can just buy, I mean, there's things besides food, but I'm just like a food person. And like,
no. I 100% judge places I go to by the food. Like Amsterdam was okay because the food sucked.
Yeah, the food sucks in Amsterdam. No, I mean, you like Thai food, right?
No. Thai food's horrible.
Well, yeah, you go to Bangkok and say, oh, right, that's all they have, and it's fucking amazing. It's just, and like old ladies just set up in like I said, in alleys with like charcoal grills and giant woks, and are hand frying these like rice noodles, and you know, we went to a mall that the food court was so good we went back later and ate there again. Like the basement food court of this giant mall in the middle of Bangkok. And it's also just like, I mean, there are these gorgeous temples and there's just like this energy of like, it's midnight and everything is open and everybody is everywhere. And you go, oh, I think people think New York is like an electric town that doesn't sleep, but like, nah, no. Like, so that's the best place I've ever been, but that's just because I think it's because I haven't been to Tokyo yet that I feel that way.
I need to go to Bangkok and compare them now, because like Tokyo is definitely a magical fucking late night city, but it's also kind of weird because they kind of trap you. The trains stop running at 1 a.m. They start again at 5. Bars are open till 5. So, like,
I get it. So
you have to make
it by 1. You're not making it.
Right. You have to make the executive decision if you're not drinking in the neighborhood where you're staying. Like, are we staying out all night, or are we going back to like where we're staying? Like, because at 12:30, it's like, But honestly, one of the craziest, most magical sights I ever saw was Shinjuku Station. Like at 5 a.m., it looked like a stadium was emptying into the train station as everyone was like, oh, "It's 5 a.m. The trains are running again. Let's go."
I'm hungover just hearing about that. That is wild.
Oh, such a fucking magical place. Like, work hard, play hard, just doing karaoke in the middle of the fucking night with giant glasses of fucking scotch and soda. Oh, like the highball is a thing there. They sell canned scotch and soda.
Nice.
All over the place. But like, we just get like giant glasses. Like, you think of the big red glass you got like at like a pizza, like a fucking pizza back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, just full of scotch and soda. Just like, I'm doing private room karaoke with my guys. Just fucking get the food's amazing. Like, honestly, the only 2 meals I've ever gotten in Tokyo that were not amazing, one was in the airport. You can't count airport food.
No, you can't count that. That doesn't count.
And the other one was at a place called Freshness Burger, because we decided in the middle of the night the only thing that was open near us was Freshness Burger, and Freshness Burger hates me. Like, I bit a burger and sprayed me with grease. I'm like, yeah, Freshness Burger is not my guy.
All right. Hey, I mean, that's still, you can bat that way and still stay in the majors. You know what I mean? Like, nobody bats 1,000.
Exactly.
In Tokyo.
And 7-Elevens have good fucking food. They're everywhere.
I've heard that they have those like egg sandwiches. They're supposed to be really good.
Yeah. And just like the street food or the fast food is like fucking rice bowls with like grilled meat over rice, and they give you an egg to crack over it, and it's fucking delicious, and you pay like $6 US for it.
Yeah, let's go. I'm down.
Oh, give me the opportunity. I will go back in a second. I will go get weird there. Like, you may have to carry me out of places. Like,
I just want, like I have a book, like my book's been published in Japan, and I want to go to the Japanese publisher. That's cool. Like,
oh, you want to go to Tower Records?
Oh yeah,
Tower Records is still a thing there.
Yes, I do. I do want to go.
The Tower Records in Shibuya is actually a tower.
Ooh, that's cool.
And they have fucking books in there. Like, I picked up Robert Dean, our homie Robert Dean, who introduced us. I picked him up a Japanese copy of Ginsberg's Howl or some shit. Like,
very cool.
Like, there was just on sale in Tower fucking Records. Like, what? Okay, fucking Ginsberg in fucking Tower Records? Sure, why not?
No, that's super fucking cool. I'd love to go to a movie there, because I love, first of all, I love Japanese movies. But also I just want to see, like, what do they got in the have you ever seen the movie Tom Popo?
I have not.
Oh my god. Okay. Tom Popo, Tampopo. It's made in the 90s, and it's a Japanese movie about a woman who inherits her husband's ramen place and is not good at making ramen, and then this like mysterious stranger comes in. It's sort of like making fun of Westerns a little bit, and he comes in and he decides he's going to help her create the greatest ramen restaurant in all of Tokyo. And so they just kind of step by step go out and they find the best noodles, and then they find the best, place to get pork, and then how to make the broth correctly. But it's all done in this very fun style, and there's just so much food in it. And there are all these little side movies that are going on at the same time. There's a gangster and his very sexy girlfriend who have a lot of weird food sex where they pass a raw egg back and forth between them, between their mouths, until she comes and the yolk breaks and runs down her face. And like, it's a great movie. And it's just like, if you like Tokyo and food and things like that, it's a really fun movie.
I will definitely check it out. But yeah, Tokyo, the food. Oh, the food is so good.
I still, I feel like we live in the best food city in America.
Yeah, that's like being gold medalist at the Special Olympics.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good here. Between the obviously like the Mexican food, the Thai food, the Korean food, which is the best outside of Korea. I think this is not bad. It's I will fight New Yorkers over this. And occasionally somebody from Chicago will pop up and go, no, actually the Mexican food in Chicago is better. It's like, hush up, hush up.
So, as someone from Chicago, the Mexican food is different in Chicago, and I fucking miss it.
I'm sure it's good.
I'm not saying it's better. They're just equally different.
I mean, one time New York Magazine ran an article saying that the Mexican food in New York was better than the Mexican food in L.A. And
what?
Yeah, in response, LA Magazine, they didn't run a list of the 100 best tacos in LA. They ran a list of the 100 best kinds of tacos in LA, which I thought was like a real good way to set up that. Hush up.
I feel like there aren't even Mexicans in New York. Like, it's mostly Puerto Rican.
Yeah, no, you're right. But they're opening up a lot of Mexican restaurants there now. There is like a boom of it, but like. So I live in Eagle Rock, so we're just north of Glassell Park, and there is a place that sets up on the sidewalk in front of the Target in Glassell Parks most nights, every weekend. And I would put that little place up against any Mexican restaurant that I've ever had anywhere else in America. It's just like it's so good, and you got to really get into LA. You have to get into buying food off carts. You have to get into buying food off people. You don't see any fucking licenses anywhere. You got to just get in on it. You know what I mean? Like,
I wholeheartedly agree. When I think of Mexican food in New York City, I think of the old Pace Picante commercial, New York City.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And again, I'm sure somewhere in New York there's like something really good. But yeah, there's also New York has better like chefs. Like if you're into like chef food, but I'm not particularly into that.
New York definitely has better Italian.
Oh yeah, granted, no contest, no.
Like LA, in the grand scheme of things, besides my long lost Italian spot, is kind of fucking shitty for Italian.
It is. It's a real weak spot. I totally granted on that one.
Did you ever get a chance to eat the sit down in East LA or East Hollywood?
No.
Oh my god. So this spot existed for a couple of years. It was like Hillhurst and fucking Hollywood Boulevard. The best like mom and pop Italian fucking. I used to get their fettuccine alfredo, and they would bake mozzarella on it in the wood-fired oven for me.
Ooh, that sounds fantastic.
Oh, it was so fucking good. And then the landlord fucked them. They tried to open a new spot on Melrose. They closed down. Rest in peace, the sit down.
I'm not saying I haven't been there, first of all, and I don't think it's probably anywhere near that good. There's a place in Eagle Rock called Columbo's that looks like a very serviceable red sauce joint. And I haven't been there yet, but like just like a place where you can get a chicken parmesan, which is like that's what's really missing from my heart in these things, and so it's out there. But no, absolutely, we lose on that. And again, that's why we talk about Tokyo and Bangkok. If I had to pick a continent where all my food came from, I would pick Asia. Like I love the food from Asia, and I mean that's speaking insanely broadly. I'm just saying if I had to. I mean,
Russia's in Asia, so like you get it all covered there.
That's right. We'll get in through the Urals there and count that. But no, I'm just that's why I get so I love taking people who are not from LA around and taking them like to Koreatown and blowing their minds.
Like what I love to do is like if you're coming in to visit me, you have to go to Road to Seoul for a Korean barbecue. That's my jam. I'm waiting for them to reopen, but Bon Shabu.
Which one? I don't know that one.
So Bon Shabu used to be over at like 7th and Normandy around there.
Okay.
That location closed down. They were supposed to reopen like right at Wilshire and Wilshire and Normandy, actually, like right across the street from the line. They were supposed to reopen in May. They still haven't.
Huh, okay.
But it was all you can eat shabu shabu.
Okay. I do like that.
Yeah.
If I was taking somebody to one place, I'd go to Hamji Park, which is on 6th Street, and they make these spicy pork ribs that are just like, and the Korean people use scissors all the time in their cooking, and I do now all the time. You're like, wait, why? Yeah, why don't we all use scissors? So you get like the ribs come in the really long strips, and you just cut them with scissors, and it's so delicious. And also, if you're a Michael Mann fan, they filmed a fight scene in the movie Black Hat in
nice.
Hamji Park. Yeah. That there's that little strip of 6th Street that is just insane. I mean, this is getting very niche discussion here of my favorite block of food. But yeah, 6th Street, like right around Hamji Park and Quarters Barbecue, and up to Cassell's Burger if you just want a hamburger.
It's like the old remnants of like, oh, K-Town used to be like where old Hollywood lived.
Yeah. Oh, there's a steakhouse. Taylor's, yeah.
Right next to, like, down the street from our bar.
Yeah. And sometimes I will check into a hotel when I have work, like when I'm like finishing a book or something. And my current choice is the Line Hotel that's right there on Wilshire. And I love to just like check in and then just like walk down and find some insane thing to eat for dinner and then walk back up and just live in a little cocoon. I love hotel living. I know not everybody does, but like I like the cocoon. I like when I really need to finish a project, like crank the heat so I can put shorts on and shut all the windows and just eat really bad food and just work with greasy fingers.
There is nothing wrong with that.
There really isn't.
But on that note, Jordan Harper, we're going to have to call last call. We've been going almost 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
And I have to do all the post work on this. So
yes, you probably do. So we don't want to be on the podcast from hell. Well, this was awesome, man. It was so good to catch up with you.
My pleasure. My absolute pleasure. Where can they find you on things? Where can they find your projects?
Well, the first place to find me, unfortunately, is Twitter, which is Jordan_Harper. Like I said, I have The Last King of California is being published by Simon & Schuster in the UK. If you're in the United States, there's a website called The Book Depository that will ship you books from the UK for really a surprisingly cheap price. Like, I think you can get The Last King of California with shipping included for $11, which doesn't seem legal to me, but I'm not asking questions. And everybody knows Mulholland Books, January, it's going to be released here in the United States, and that's the one I think is going to be make a big splash. I'm very excited about it. And other than that, I don't have anything new in TV right now, so I'm just looking for a job. And I was just on season 3 of Hightown on Starz is going to come out fairly soon. I worked on that. But other than that, yeah, find me on Twitter. I'm always talking about what I got going on, and that's what I got.
Hell yeah, Jordan. We gotta not wait 4 years in between fucking episodes.
Yeah, indeed. Agreed.
But as always, you can find me at Matt_Slayer on Twitter, Matt Slayer on Instagram, Matt F. Slayer on Facebook, twitch.tv/Matt F. Slayer. You can find the Patreon with all the exclusive content. There will be no nudity from this episode. I'm sorry to break people's hearts.
Oh, I didn't know that was an option.
It is. It always is.
Okay.
At patreon.com/Matt Slayer. But you can get the video versions a week early there. And you can find the podcast at And Now We Drink on Twitter and Now We Drink _ on Instagram. And until next week, drink up, motherfuckers.